waiting for you to intro the show.
I was trying to get on the TV. I was trying to hook up with the TV. Hey, first and foremost, good morning, everybody. Going up on a Tuesday. It's cold outside. So we can say that back in our day, when they would cancel school, you'd be like, and basically everybody around the area has canceled school today.
Yeah, I saw that.
We have better weather than Houston.
We do?
Yeah.
Really?
I-10's closed from Houston to New Orleans.
Because of the cold?
It's snowing. The blizzard warnings in Louisiana.
Oh, that's right. Here,
cold.
No messing around, no tomfoolery.
No.
That's an old reference over there for you.
I know what tomfoolery is.
Okay, well, I have to check.
I was young.
Tomfoolery's a
Hey,
little bit older.
I'm young. I'm old enough to remember the old-fashioned snow days before remote learning, where it's like, oh my God, and you're waiting at the TV and you have the news channel on. You're waiting for them to say that your district is closing down school for the day, and you're all there. You're holding hands. Mom gets an email because she works at CPS. All right, hey, CPS is closed. Dad goes, okay, well, you know what? I guess I won't go up to Milwaukee. I'll stay in, with the kids tomorrow. And then you see District 72, and you're like, oh, my God, we're not going to school.
Back to bed.
You wake up. Dad's got hot cocoa going. You grab your snow pants. You grab your jacket, your hat, your gloves. You go out there. Oh, my God, 21 inches in December of 2010.
No, thank you.
It was the greatest 2 days of my childhood.
I think those days are over.
They're over.
I think the days of getting a lot of inches is over. But
especially this time of the year,
for people here in the Omaha area, no messing around, no fooling. It's cold outside, so take precaution. It is the coldest I've ever seen my in-car temperature gauge.
What was it?
Where were you?
I was -7.
I was -7 as well.
It was -12.
Okay.
So I think we were and here we are. We're complaining, and we've got people from North Dakota that are listening.
Yeah.
I think we got as cold as
May,
11 below. But schools are canceled, and no fooling around. I mean, I feel bad. There's this person that runs on Leavenworth that I see every day, and they're out there running again this morning. Now they're bundled up. They look like they're from Christmas Story, the little kid. But the people that have to go out, we were talking yesterday about your pets. Like, would you suffer frostbite so your pet could take a poop? The people that have to go outside with their dog that I see in my neighborhood, I'm like, I feel for you.
She wasn't messing around yesterday.
It's no messing around. It's cold outside. So good that the kids are off. But the remote learning, how does OPS get screwed? How do the OPS kids? Everybody else is like done.
Yeah.
They're like done. We're out for today. A lot of schools now, that's a 4-day weekend. Yeah. Because you didn't have school yesterday because of MLK Day.
Yeah.
Is OPS still has to have remote learning. Man, another reason to transfer. Get in the portal. Play at a Millard school. Go to District 66.
Go
to a Catholic school.
I think remote learning is one of the worst things to happen to America.
That is one thing that you guys have that
you guys can keep. And I blame my generation because in my year in particular, because we just allowed it to happen. We were the sheep. We just sat down and we were
stand
like,
up to the man.
Oh, okay, we'll do this. We'll sit down. We'll watch. We'll do the remote. We'll log on to Canva. We'll go to Zoom. We'll do okay. I'll show up for my classes. We should have just been like, no, we ain't doing
like Mike Tyson.
Screw this. We ain't going to school. We're done here.
I don't think you need to take the burden of this. I think that's a heavy weight for you to carry. I think COVID may have.
Yeah, but I think we allowed it. We allowed it to happen. We should have stood up for the future generations of America because now we don't let.
You sound like someone that didn't get pardoned yesterday.
That was a good one.
That's how you're going to stop remote learning.
We have a problem. We have a problem in this country where we're not allowing children to be children anymore. Okay, we're not.
That's gonna be a little dangerous.
Yeah, we're not allowing kids to be kids. They got to sit down at their desk on their iPad and they got to learn. They should be out running about playing PS5. They should be going outside. And then like their mom's like, no, come back in right now. And be like, no, I'm not gonna. And then they come back in and they got frostbite and they're crying. They got to learn these lessons. Now we're trapping them in the house.
Just say
letting
the magic
them learn
words.
remotely.
Hey,
what are they even
on.
learning? What are they even learning on that computer?
I know, like as parents, when you're younger and you're in school and you see what Matt was describing as the message on TV, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Now as a parent though, you're like, what do we do with these Rugrats. I got them at home. I got no school. I got no daycare. I'm going to have to stay home. What do we do?
Well, that's another thing. Working from home, like remote work too, that's ruined the being able to stay home for the parents as well. Because we've gotten to the point where everybody loved their house. Everybody loved their home. Everybody loved being in their domicile because they were always outside of it. Now after COVID, because we've allowed ourselves to keep us in the house, we now hate the house. We now hate the home. We need to get out. It's become the opposite. It's like people want to leave their homes now.
Not today.
Not today. So stay in today. Listen to the show. We're here until 10.
Unless you're getting firewood. Be a good day to make a nice toasty, crumpling fire.
Hope you got that.
Yeah, I hope you already were prepared.
Yeah, I hope. No, I'm saying I hope you have it. Unless, like, I would say, stay inside unless you're like we're out,
or buy a fake fireplace, which you can do.
Yeah,
or put it on YouTube.
Your favorite store sells a lot of fake.
Wasn't a Boy Scout, but you'll be hard pressed to find anyone who makes a better fire than Matt McMaster.
It's a flex. I like that.
That's an interesting flex. Like, what is the comparison? Yeah. Like, who out there is your competition?
Family members at a holiday party
making fire.
Hey, Matt,
we did that in college.
Hey, can we get a fire on? Yeah, Matt, go ahead. Matt, do it.
So, what do you is it just the flick of the wrist with the matches, the matchbook?
No, for me, here's what you do. You make a square. Okay. Make a square. Then you make a little pyramid.
Okay.
Then you make a second square. And so then you have.
Sounds like a s'more.
Two squares in
sounds like Jenga.
2 squares in a pyramid, and then the fire starter would rest in the middle of the square with the pyramid going over it. You drop the match, you let the fire starter go, and then essentially you're funneling upward toward. But you got to be careful that you don't have too much wood because the oxygen can't get to the fire; it won't burst into flames.
Okay,
shout out arson.
So you got to make sure that you have the correct spacing, but you need as much infrastructure and a foundation as possible when building your fire.
1620, the fireplace. We got our guy.
There you go.
This might be Boy Scouts that would challenge you.
I was not a Boy
event.
Scout, but I would. Were you a Boy Scout?
No, I was a Cub Scout.
You're a Cub Scout.
And then I started playing. I had too much sports.
Exactly. So that's the.
You thought you were part of the Cubs, and
that's the push and pull. I wish I was part of the Cubs.
I got. I think I got as high as Weeblos. Does that sound right?
That's no.
That sounds like a furniture.
No. I think I was a Weeblo.
This sounds like an innuendo.
Hold on. No. No, I'm serious here. We used to have den meetings in my basement. With fellow Cub Scouts, for anybody that's asking.
You're the king.
Yeah.
Wait, this isn't the 7. What do you do? 7 seconds in heaven?
Yeah. No, I was a Weeblo.
What level is that on the Cub Scout?
So Wolf, Bear, Lion, ages 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
And then, Then when you get your Scout, you are a Weeblo. Yeah, I was a Weeblo. I think that's as high as I got.
A Weeblo.
Yeah, I was scorned though. This is new. This is new to you, not new to our listeners. The whole Pinewood Derby thing.
Oh yeah.
Where my dad, we just painted the block of wood and put the tires on, and
you kind of half-assed it.
Well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
So it really is something that I carry a burden, kind of like Ryan Day.
Yeah.
Ryan Day's carried the burden of being the head coach at Ohio State. Should have been fired. Have we checked this morning?
Wait, they lost to Michigan. I thought they were going to fire him.
Hey, how about that? You win a national title, but you still can't beat Michigan. But did Ryan Day, did he finally score from third base last night?
Did he finally tag up on the sac fly by Jeremiah Smith?
The college football season is over. Let's be sad together.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make a bold proclamation here as we started the show talking about the weather, is that the next time that there is a college football game inside of this state, that the weather will be a little bit warmer.
A little bit.
Hey, what a bold proclamation.
You heard it here first.
I was the first to say it. Has anybody else said that to you?
No.
I'm the first. Yeah. I'm a trendsetter.
Can we mark that down? Can we put that on a wall somewhere?
What are we, 220 days?
214 until it all begins. So it'll be 221.
Farmageddon in Dublin. Yes. K-State and Iowa State are the first game to go.
I love that Dublin game. I love the Aer Lingus Classic.
Well, you know what? I was enjoying it when you're up by 11, and then everything went downhill after that.
Just kick off.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was a win.
If I'm
being honest with you, that game was weird for me. That was a win-win situation.
I started the following Monday.
That's
so
right.
That.
I forgot who they play. They played your lover boy, Pat Fitzgerald.
I don't think that's an appropriate guy to label as my lover boy right now in this day and age.
You got a poster above your bed.
No.
Of him shirtless with the fellow linebackers on the 95 Northwestern team.
They're ripped. Neck rolls and everything.
Nope. I had a poster of Brian Urlacher. That's who I had a poster
and
of.
Loverboy.
But the college football season sad, is over last night. For some of you that bailed and probably said, you know what, I've heard Sharpie talking about Landman. I'm going to watch Landman because this game is a blowout. Notre Dame sucked you back in, and then Jeremiah Smith sucked you back out of the game. And Ohio State is the national champion. The Ohio State University. Ted Carter has a championship. Wow. Will Howard has a championship.
Yeah, so
Ryan Day has a championship.
That was the craziest part when they're doing the celebration. I'm like, man, Will Howard is a college football national champion. And I think
Avery Johnson is not.
For me, Will Howard was the guy who replaced Adrian Martinez after Adrian went down at K-State. Like he was the dude who came in and he stepped up and he ended up winning the Big 12 championship for K-State. And it's just and then Chris Kleiman went to the microphone and national TV and he was like, first off, I love Adrian Martinez and we wouldn't be here without him. But Will Howard's awesome, And it's just that was kind of cool for me because it's like you saw. I found out who Will Howard was 3 years ago, essentially, and then you see him rise into this man. He made himself money last night.
No, I mean, he's going to force somebody to take a flyer on him.
I don't. He looked good. He looked good against good. Looked good against good defense. I know that they were open. I know there was a good scheme.
Will he go to an NFL team that has worse wide receivers than Ohio State?
That's the one thing, though. So, that isn't that the terrible give and take of being the Ohio State quarterback, where it's like if you play terribly, you're awful, you're terrible. How can you not be good at Ohio State? But if you play really, really well, it's like, well, who are you throwing to? Damned if you do. Damned if you don't. I'm not trying to feel bad for the guy. I don't think anyone does. He just won a national championship, but he looked damn good yesterday. He was practically near perfect in the first half.
There is the history of Ohio State quarterbacks, though.
There is.
Now, C.J. Stroud most recently is a little bit of an outlier.
A little bit is the best way.
Bobby Hoyne played a few years.
I mean, the late Dwayne Haskins was starting. Somebody will take a flyer on him. He has the look of a Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback. But I'm happy for the guy. He left Manhattan, he got paid, and he won a national championship. And there were points during the game last night that I thought his mom was more famous than Taylor Swift. ESPN hardly showed Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark on Saturday. But
that is true.
I think Will Howard's mom, I thought she was I had to Google her. I felt very uncomfortable. I was Googling Will Howard's mom because I thought she was famous because they kept showing her on the broadcast last night.
I know her?
But I'm happy for Will Howard. He left K-State. There was a brief 6-hour period where we thought, well, Will Howard might come to Nebraska.
Yeah.
But he goes to Ohio State. He got paid. Now he wins a national championship. But I was thinking, as that game unfolded last night, and there's a lot of twists and turns in that game, and at the end of the day, the best team in college football back in August was the best team in college football in the middle of January. They were an absolute freight train that had the better coaching, they had the better talent, they survived the gauntlet, and at the end of the day, they won. And I think it's appropriate in the first championship of the current college football era with the playoff that a team like Ohio State wins. A team that in the NIL and portal world is very much represented.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money to acquire and retain, I think even more so retain, guys that could have gone to the NFL but stayed at Ohio State because of the cash that the Buckeyes had, little buck nuts. And then the portal. They had a couple of key additions at spots, Caleb Downs to Will Howard. So they're like the perfect team to win the first year of this modern era college football.
Well, you look at how has, and this might be a larger conversation, but how has the North done it? How has the Big Ten done it? How has in back-to-back years the Big Ten been able to win national championships? Well, it's number one. The Big Ten Ohio State created a Big Ten team with JT and with Jack Sawyer and the wide receivers they were able to get and recruit on their own. But then look at the other perfect little complementary pieces they were able to get. Caleb Downs, former SEC player. Quinshon Judkins, former SEC player. Will Howard, former Big 12 player. They're able to go and get the best guys in those other conferences and add them to their roster. So that's been the difference. You haven't been able to do that in the past. You haven't been able to build the roster in the manner in which you want for your conference, but then at the same time, cherry pick the best players from other teams and other conferences. They did that. They were successful. This is the model. This is the model.
Not everybody can do it, though.
Not everybody can do it at the level that Ohio State can.
Don't just say Ohio State. Say Michigan.
Because
sure. Michigan and Ohio State are two of the largest brands with the most obnoxious fan bases that have money and they spent money. You can have money and not spend it, but Ohio State and Michigan the last 2 years, they've gone out and spent money, and that's why the Big Ten, and I don't look at, again, you remember we had this discussion way back about conference rooting. Ohio State and Michigan are a standalone. Everybody has a brand.
Yeah.
They just happen to play in the Big Ten, and not every Big Ten team is created equal. But what it has done is, because of Ohio State and Michigan having large brands and now they can spend money and they have money, it has leveled the playing field when it comes to the SEC. I can't wait to see what happens next year, how the SEC pivots. But right now, it's good to be in the Big Ten, but good to be if you're a major brand. And Michigan and Ohio State the last 2 years have had money and they have spent money. And what has been this common theme? They have been the best team in the postseason, and they have been a freight train at the end of the year.
Like
this is a culmination, too, for Ohio State. They lost last year to Michigan, and you're really too bad Kyle McCord passes away from beating Michigan in that game. Mm-hmm. And then more than likely proceeding to beat Alabama and then beat Washington and win the national championship. You can make a major claim that last year Ohio State was the second best team in the country. And then a couple years before that, against Georgia, the ball drops, Ohio State, field goal to win it, field goal to beat Georgia, who ends up kicking the butts of TCU in the next game. They miss it. Once again, you can make the argument, not even an argument, Ohio State was the second best team in the country that year. They've been so close so many times. Ryan Day, was he born on third? Was he born on second? So on and so forth. Hey, man, it ain't easy just retaining a great program, a prestigious program. There's been a lot of work and a lot of good coaching that has gone into where Ohio State's at, and we've got a good assistant coaching as well that they've been able to retain and add and whatnot. Ryan Day, finally, I still think there will be a little bit of a stigma around him, despite because
70-10, brother.
I know, but still, I think you're still going to have your haters no matter what. Even though I disagree with them completely, I mean.
We'll get into this. Yeah. I actually think the people that were calling for Ryan Day to be fired got vindicated last night.
They got vindicated?
Vindicated.
Okay.
We can bring that up a little bit later.
Okay.
I mean, probably for the first time he has job security if you thought that he was ever going to get fired. I don't know. It's a toxic environment because it's Ohio State and it's a passionate fan base. And once you do it once, there's going to be that turnover. So he's 70-10. The thing about Ohio State that is pretty impressive in this day and age of you change coaches, so you hand the baton from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day. They're 153-19 from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day. So even Michigan has had a couple of one-offs.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, pretty damn impressive that they have stayed really near the elite of the elite in college football for the last 13, 14 years.
That's so hard to do in this day and age.
That's what I think. I think that's what makes what has gone on from Urban to Ryan Day even more impressive. And then I also think it culminates. You could kind of see, because I mean, the expectations are through the roof at Ohio State, and they should be. They should be. Is when he threw his headset last night. I mean, that was kind of like you could see all of the stuff that he has gone through as a head coach at Ohio State. And that just ended it because he didn't just hand it to, like a manager. He chucked that thing. If I'm a fan and I caught that, I'm on eBay right now.
That's like
but that was like the emotion of like the release of finally. But you know what'll happen? Tomorrow morning in Columbus, you'll have your parade or probably on the weekend or whatever they do.
So it can be Michigan next year?
Then it'll be what Saban encountered. Well, what are you doing? What are you going to do next?
Yeah.
What are you going to do next? But at Ohio State, you've already proven through two head coaches, you are the Ohio State and
world famous.
You basically, as long as you don't beat yourself, you're in this position every single year. That's a nice spot to be in if you are a bucknut.
Yeah, yeah. You could say that again. That Gatorade dump, by the way, all-time Gatorade dump. I mean, they hit him on the head. They got him on the forehead with that green Gatorade. That was impressive.
I didn't know
I haven't seen a Gatorade dump like that in a while. Secondly,
Remember
that interaction between him and Jack Sawyer that they caught on ESPN when he was doing his interview, where they both were just jumping up and down like little kids celebrating. I mean, Sawyer, kid who grew up in Columbus, in Buckeye PJs growing up, like wanted to be a player, wanted to play for the team, ends up not only just being a player, but like one of the best players on the team and in the country. I know it's hard to like sympathize and have empathy for a program like Ohio State who just can't stop winning and who spends a lot of money and who does whatever they possibly can in order to win. I know it's hard to root for I don't want to call them the Yankees because they haven't done as much winning, but like a team that's willing to do that. I know it's hard, but there's some good stories. There's some good stories on that team. It's good sports.
So that 153-19 run, which makes it, I mean, they've been elite without titles.
Yes.
So now they've got
kind of like Dodgers before this year, honestly.
Well, there was that one COVID year.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger story, and people around college football are going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it, is the $20 million number.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a good chunk of that was to retain guys that could have gone to the NFL that they said, hey, why don't you stay one more year in Columbus and let's run it back. I think a bigger story with Ohio State when it comes to their roster and their quote-unquote payroll is if they didn't spend the money. You're Ohio State. You're required to do everything possible to put a national championship football team on the field. Again, another key benefit of Ohio State. How many programs across the country, because Michigan did the same thing, if you want to compete, you got to spend money. Okay, you got to have a buy-in from your fan base. And I'm bringing Nebraska into this conversation. So Michigan and Ohio State, if you want to compete, you got to spend money, and they've done that the last 2 years on their roster, spending smart money. But if they don't spend money at Ohio State, that's a huge story. But I don't want to hear, they spent all. You know what? Are we jealous? Yeah. Would you like to have $20 million on Nebraska to spend on Nebraska's roster? Hell yes, you would. Don't say, the sanctity. You want a national title. Ohio State did everything that they can do as the Ohio State, and they spent money on their roster. I hate this. They bought a title. You know what? How many other fan bases across the country would like to go and buy a title? But you don't think Marcus Freeman's waking up today going, okay, how do we find out how to get better, and how do we spend money on our roster so that we're right back in the same spot?
Here's another thing, though. You talking about people being mad that Nebraska isn't spending $20 million on their roster. Nebraska hasn't built a roster to spend $20 million on.
That's true. And I don't know that there's $20 million available for Nebraska to spend on their roster.
But it's not even about whether or not it's available. It's about the principle of Nebraska not spending that money on the roster. Ohio State built guys, built JT, built Jack Sawyer, built Cody Simon, built like Tyleek Williams, built Igbuka, built Carnell Tate. They built these dudes up, built Travion Henderson. They developed these guys. They recruited.
How good is their running back?
So good.
And also their offensive line got better post Nebraska when they finally figured out all the injuries and the moving pieces.
Look, they recruited at a high level for years. They then developed at a high level for years. They got to the point where the roster was even worth $20 million. So they got to spend $20 million. Okay. So at the end of the day, you could talk about the money and how much they put here and how much they invested. Great. Do you know what it came down to, though? Talent acquisition and talent development. And it will always come down to that.
Sounds like Morse code when you're banging on the table.
Sorry.
You telling something?
Well, it's smart money. You recruit first in high school, and then you add key pieces. They also, last night, their coaching was far superior to Notre Dame. I mean, their talent was already a head start, and then you added in the coaching last night. And that was a mismatch. I mean, you went from scripted to non-scripted, and you saw the difference.
Yes. So that was it was a little bit eerily similar to 2020 Ohio State versus Nebraska, right? That first drive, Adrian Martinez, Luke McCaffrey, they surgically make their way down the field. They score a touchdown at 7-0. You're like, oh my God. And then you got nothing the rest of the way because you weren't scripting anymore, because you weren't pre-planning, because it was thinking on the fly. Now, they got great contributions toward the end. Riley Leonard picked it up.
They hung around, but I mean, it was
Jaden Greathouse was incredible yesterday, especially in that second half. He was the guy. Like, I remember watching him against Penn State where he broke off that massive touchdown, broke 2 guys' ankles. I'm like, dude, where has that guy been?
Yeah.
He showed up yesterday. I mean, he looked really, really good.
You guys surprised that the Philly special still works in 2025?
Yeah, a little bit. You feel like people would figure it out at this point, right? I was shocked that at one point in that first drive and even later in the game, you knew that on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, they were just going to give it to Riley Leonard and he was going to put his head down. I mean, that was coming, and he kept getting it. He kept me. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I feel bad for Riley Leonard.
Why?
Here's
no. Why? What? Stop. Why would you feel bad for Riley Leonard? He's going to have a degree from Duke and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
I mean, hello.
Great for him. I feel bad for him because he is a football player, and he is awesome, and he'll go down in Notre Dame lore as this awesome quarterback football player led us to the national championship. But if he was able to pull off that comeback yesterday, he would have gone down in college football, like history lore. It's like, yeah, Riley Leonard, like that's a college football winning quarterback. Like that's a college football player like that. Cause he's not going to, no disrespect to Riley. He's not going to be a guy who's going to have a tremendous amount of success at the next level. Yesterday was kind of his coup de grace. That was his Super Bowl. That was the biggest moment of his career, and maybe even the biggest moment of his life. And he fought for it, and he played so well. He was so tough. I was so impressed by him. Why are you looking at me like that? Yes, the birth of your child and your wedding will probably be bigger days in your life. Yes, there are more things than just sports.
Notre Dame needs a quarterback. Notre Dame couldn't win a national championship with Riley Leonard as a quarterback.
They need Ron Powles.
I mean, you're right.
There's 4
talent
Heismans.
Rose to the top. Ohio State controlled that game the entire time.
They needed him to hit some big throws, and he didn't hit some big throws.
He didn't hit him.
Marcus Freeman had a bad night.
He didn't hit him early enough. And
is there a story behind the eye black on the side of the face?
You know what?
That's what the kids are doing now?
Honestly, just kind of like a customization thing in terms of like guys do something that they think is cool and they just do it the rest of their career. Like we had guys like that in our team who just did different things, whether it be accessories or eye black or whatever. I think it's just kind of an athlete, my generation deal where it's like, oh, this is cool. Not a lot of people are doing it, so now I just do it. I don't think there's a hidden meaning.
I thought he was going to run for. I think he didn't carry the ball 20 times in the first half.
Yeah, man, he got beat up. So we're going to talk about Freeman because that was bad.
Marcus Freeman had a bad night at the office.
That was bad.
Marcus Freeman's barber is on point.
Dude.
That fade is unbelievable.
Ain't it nice?
And I'm a Marcus Freeman fan because Notre Dame's in a good spot.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll figure out. They have a hunger. They'll figure out what it takes. But, man, he had a bad night at the office, and college football coaches are bad at basic math.
How do you do? Why do you even?
I mean, so
at that point in the game, right? You have to recognize as the head coach, okay, if we're going to win this game, it's going to be an overtime. This isn't. We're no longer. You're doing the math in your head. You're doing like, all right, 10 minutes left, fourth quarter. This that like you're going through the process of like how many points do we need to win this game? You have to recognize in that moment in time, if we're going to win this contest, it's going to be an overtime. There is no, well, we'll kick the field goal now because we'll have to kick it later. No. You need 16 points. You have to get it in the end zone.
Well,
here.
Anytime you can take a 2-score game to a 2-score game, you should.
And I had the Jeremiah Love anytime touchdown, and I just got absolutely my heart ripped out all night on
Someone's
that bet.
no longer on a heater.
See, that's the part of this gauntlet that you go through in the playoff is Notre Dame was banged up.
Yeah.
But Love even more so. I mean, that knee brace, he wasn't the same all night long.
It was clear. And I think they were Notre Dame. This is what ND did. They gave him the ball to begin the game. And then they were going to see if he was good to go. And it was pretty clear from the very first second he touched the ball. It's just like, nah, it just doesn't have.
Well, you can't run lateral against that defense.
No.
And I mean, he's a plotter and a banger. I mean, they had a good start, but what was scary, and you knew the game, I kind of felt the game was over at 7-7. And I said yesterday, Ohio State has superior talent. They're going to win this game. Is how easy it was for Ohio State to respond to an 18-play drive. I mean, it was fit, and all of a sudden it's 7-7.
It's a great take.
And you're like, okay.
But I will say this,
and then there was 21-7, and you blown open the Notre Dame advantage of the middle eight.
You talk about talent rising to the top, having the better players. Your big guys need to be your big guys in big moments. Okay, that's the biggest thing. You can say that you have good players, you have great players, but you know what? In the biggest moments, if they're not showing up and they're not making plays, then you don't have good guys and great players. Ohio State's great players stepped up in the biggest moments. Yep. Will Howard stepped up in the biggest moment. Jeremiah Smith stepped up in the biggest moment. Quinshon Judkins stepped up in the biggest moment with that massive run that got him to the 2-yard line. Okay? They had great players that made great plays, and that's how you win national championships.
Yep, I agree with you. Stars still matter.
Absolutely.
Elite players matter.
But
elite players mattered on the Ohio State side of the bracket. It's crazy that we had if you look at, you had Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon were all on the same side of the bracket, but look at that side of the bracket compared to the other side of the bracket that had Notre Dame and Penn State.
Yeah.
The quarterback and wide receiver play. Stars matter.
Great point.
Elite players show up in elite games, and if they don't, they get crushed.
But
more than likely, they're going to show up in college football, and like they did last night.
We throw out the word star a little bit too much for me. There's a lot of stars in sports everywhere. I know it's just kind of a blanket phrase now. To me, you're not a star unless you're making the biggest plays in the biggest moments. Don't call yourself a star. Don't say this guy's a star unless when your team needs it against the best competition in the country, they're stepping up. Ohio State didn't just have one guy, didn't just have two guys. They had a plethora of guys do that.
And they also had coaching. Notre Dame got worked, okay? You had the play calling on the 10-yard line. You had, of course, the field goal decision, which I hope to God there wasn't an analytic guy sitting next to Marcus Freeman.
Hey, Coach Gruden, go for it here, Coach Gruden.
And then, Chip Kelly was in his bag last night.
He was.
And then the dagger on 3rd and 11 where you go with cover 0 and an all-out blitz. But why in the hell were you given a 10-yard cushion if you're going to do that? And Ohio State picked it up, and Howard recognized it, and the play call was perfect. The thing about Ohio State, and they might lose their DC. Jim Knowles is rumored to go to Oklahoma. Chip Kelly last year interviewed for some NFL coordinator jobs.
Yeah.
Maybe that happens again. Is coaching matters. They have money to spend on their roster, but they also have some money to spend on their coaching staff. To retain a guy like Brian Hartline, who is the greatest wide receiver, one of the greatest wide receiver coaches in the history of college football.
So when it's 34-15,
good to be Ohio State.
When it's 34-15 on the possession where they missed the field goal, right? I think the one play you didn't mention, and the one that I think isn't getting talked about enough. It's 2nd down. Notre Dame is on at the 6-7 yard line at that point, and they throw a fade.
Yeah.
Why in the hell are you throwing a fade against these corners, against these defenses? You don't have the personnel to do that. Run the ball, get the ball, run the ball, get the ball down to the 3 or 4 yard line, and then figure it out. Yeah. Because that's why they kicked the field goal, because they threw the ball on 2nd down, so then they got to throw the ball on 3rd down, which means you got to throw the ball on 4th down. You're becoming predictable in the red zone, in the goal line area. You're allowing this defense to pin their ears back, and they're absolutely elite. You can't allow that to happen. I did not understand a fade ball on 2nd down. What are they calling? It made no sense. It completely screwed up the mojo of that drive, and it allowed Ohio State to completely understand what Notre Dame was going to do, which is why Freeman got scared and wanted to kick the field goal. And then, of course he missed it. Of course he missed it.
With a doink. KG called, just wanted to ask you guys if Ryan Day is going to be fired, if they still want to fire him or not.
Got some crazy fans at Ohio State. Remember, they didn't beat Michigan.
Nope.
You think Michigan, it was like
people
rooting for Ohio State yesterday a little bit so they could rub it in, the fact that, you won a national championship, but we still beat you. And then,
doesn't Michigan have scoreboard on Ohio State? Michigan won a national championship last year. Mm-hmm. Ohio State won it this year. But the last 2 years, Michigan has beaten Ohio State. So don't Maize and Blue have scoreboard?
Yes, absolutely they do.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Michigan could say at this point, hey, you don't win that national championship unless we beat you.
You're exactly.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Ironically,
you're welcome.
So what? Kirby won his title in his 6th year, his first title. Isn't that Ryan Day won his in his 6th? Ironically, the year that Kirby won his title, they lost to Alabama. The year that Ryan wins his title, they lose to Michigan. I'm pretty sure year 6 was when Kirby got his. All right, let me give you the lineup for the show. Sam McEwen's going to stop by. We'll get his thoughts now that the college football season is over.
Has it only been 6 years of Ryan Day? It feels like forever.
The sad pizza has been a while. By the way, there was a major incident last night involving a golf cart in Ohio State.
Probably a UGA driver.
Sam McEwen will join us coming up at 7:30. Brian Christopherson, Andy Kennedy. That's the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Yes, there was another Ohio State golf cart head coach incident last night after the game. When it gets cold in the South, people don't know how to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they crashed a golf cart with Will Howard and Ryan Day in it.
Really?
It ran right into the wall.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Driving golf carts, it ain't that hard, people.
You got two celebrities. Yeah, right into the wall. Yeah, the golf cart was messed up. But it went crashing into the wall, and like Ryan Day's in the front, and he is jarred. I'm like,
this wouldn't have happened to Urban.
No, so Urban wasn't in a moving golf cart. He was just eating pizza in a stationary golf cart.
Kirby won his in year 5.
Okay,
so he won his 1 year before. Now they both lost in the national championship. Well, actually, Ryan Day lost in the national championship in year 3. Kirby lost in the national championship in year 2. So a little bit years off there. But a good call. Good call from you. That was a good call.
Thank you. You're my fact checker.
Yes. That's why I'm hired.
The two guys that are probably 1-2 in the coaches in college football. We'll have a debate about who is number 3. All right, 42 past the hour, off and rolling on a chilly Tuesday. Be safe, be smart out there. The weather sucks. It is, throw up a weather graphic here, -7.
Jeez.
-7 out right now.
So it's a dry heat.
It feels like 23 below, if you prefer that. The dew point is 17 below.
If that makes it feel better.
Yeah.
Bud Grant would still not be wearing gloves.
Off and rolling. Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a Tuesday morning. I've been informed by the great Matt Coatney. Good win by Nebraska women. Last night they rolled Wisconsin. They hit 16 threes at PBA. They're unbeaten on their home floor. They've won 5 in a row. Britt Prince is the real deal. Matt Coatney, the voice of women's basketball, has informed me that it is Happy International Sweatpants Day.
Heck yeah. I'm representing.
Are those sweatpants or joggers?
These are sweatpants.
I don't think they're sweatpants. I think those are like really fashionable, nice joggers. Those look comfy as heck.
They are so comfy.
You know,
I got a question for you. This could be bad.
Flaky Jake can't wait for this one.
What's the
biggest
difference?
fan.
What's the difference between sweatpants and joggers?
Jimmy?
Well, the joggers cut off down at the bottom, have a little cuff, and the sweatpants can go long, but some joggers have mated with sweatpants, and so they're kind of the same.
I do have a cuff.
Those are joggers.
These are joggers?
They're good. Those are very comfy.
I think I just own a lot of joggers.
That's all right.
That's okay. I think the sweatpants are kind of being...
Yeah.
Plus, you're in an office.
You know, another thing that I've noticed here, so I spend a lot of time with 18 to 23-year-old kids who are 6'9" and they wear joggers.
Matt was like, me too. Oh,
yeah, well, I was like, I fit the criteria. Nah, I don't fit the criteria.
So when we travel for basketball, they all have these really nice, fashionable sweatsuits.
Yeah.
But I can't wear them because the crotch hangs down to my kneecaps. I mean, I'm not 6'9". I am 5'11", but with the fro, I'm about 6'4" on a good day.
Absolutely.
I like to travel, and so I'll either wear like a nice pair of golf, quote unquote, jogger types.
Sure.
Or I'll wear jeans. Very few people wear jeans these days.
I love jeans. You got to get the right jeans. For those people complaining about jeans being too tight in certain areas and being uncomfortable, you just purchased the wrong jeans, my man.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the right
no
jeans.
Skinny fit.
A little bit loose, but like you can't get like the baggy jeans. Like you got to make sure they fit you. You got to really understand your waist size too. And it's all science. When it comes to jeans, being comfy in jeans, it's a science. You can really break it down. I'm being serious. Serious.
Hey, we're listening.
I'm being serious.
I know. So Rach went to the Buckle not too long ago. And
I used to go there.
The only time I've really ever went to the Buckle was to buy Doc Martens. I've never bought clothes there.
Sure.
But she needed jeans, so we went in there. I mean, first of all, jeans are expensive, which just blows me away.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay paying $75 for a pair of jeans. But she was, she bought a couple pair of jeans. They were quite expensive, but like they tailor them. Like, are you gonna wear boots with them? Oh yeah.
Wow.
Like she bought them and left them, and they tailored them, and she went back.
Tailored jeans?
Yeah. I was like, I just want to go in and grab off the rack. Okay. I just want to go in. I'm not going to try it on because I don't. Then if they don't fit, I just won't take them back because I'm a guy. But yeah, the whole jeans thing is. I'm trying to save the jeans. More jeans.
I gained a lot of weight about a year ago. I got up a little bit in the weight department.
You got the senior 15?
Yeah. Usually it's the other way around.
Honestly, it was like the senior 25. Like I got the heaviest I've ever been. And part of my motivation, amongst other things, because I've since lost that weight. One of my motivations was I wasn't fitting in my jeans anymore. Like literally, like they were the jeans that I used to wear a belt with, that were a little loose, where like I was
now you have to
trying to thread the needle. I was like, this is a wake up call. Like I'm gonna get a Bowflex. Like I'm gonna change.
A couple of tweets and emails here. Rick says,
if it's
this will harken back if you are a longtime Omahan.
I like that.
He goes, I am of the generation that KFVB's Walt Kavanaugh, the voice of school closings. Wake up early to listen to the dulcet tones of Walt, waiting to hear Millard Public Schools.
I mean, that's how it was, man. You sat around the TV, holding hands with your brother and sister, praying and hoping,
holding a rosary.
Thank you for the DM share from Damn It, Randy. Because yesterday was Inauguration Day. Did you guys watch?
I did.
Oh, yeah. I'm a geek when it comes to that
stuff. A lot of stuff going on yesterday.
Highly entertaining.
I did see that. I've never seen that before, and I don't know if anyone's seen that before, where they put a camera on him and he sat down at his desk and he just started signing executive orders, and it was...
Oh, that wasn't even... My two biggest takeaways from yesterday at the inauguration
drill
was whatever gummy that George W. Bush took, and then also Mark Zuckerberg. with Jeff Bezos' girlfriend. He got caught.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I saw that.
Other than that, I
bad.
have no idea what else happened. Oh, and Deb Fisher spoke. And people that she took their land from are still upset. But this is shared. Most college football wins under each president. Would you guys like to guess who won the most games under President Biden?
Oh, in college football?
By the way, Nebraska is on this list twice, or actually 3 times.
Who won the most games?
Under the presidency of Joe Biden.
I'm going to go with Ohio State, Bob.
I'm going to go with Oregon.
Oh, it's a good one.
Georgia.
Damn.
They won 53 games. Didn't in 2020, Georgia went the way of Joe Biden, right? Okay. Under Donald Trump's first presidency.
That's how they got back for that.
Alabama.
Well, 2 states that are Republican.
Yeah.
Clemson and Alabama.
Wow.
But Barack Obama. Alabama won 100 games during his 2 terms.
Alabama unites parties.
Okay. When Bill Clinton was the president,
Yes.
Nebraska won 91 games. When Ronald Reagan, in my power rankings of presidents, the greatest president of all time, I've been to his library.
His library?
His library. He also came to my school when I was little.
Wow.
Because it was the caucus, and he's from,
he came
Illinois.
In the caucus?
Caucusing.
He when we were caucusing.
You're caucusing?
I wasn't caucusing. I was not old enough.
Ronald Reagan was caucusing.
Ronald Reagan was campaigning in the Iowa caucuses. And so he came to our school, our elementary school. And so it was like, okay. And then you find out that he is a radio announcer and a sports announcer.
Yeah.
And he is
an actor.
An actor and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I got to find out more about this guy. So later in life, I studied Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
I went to his library in California.
How beautiful and pristine.
I was disappointed that Nancy was not there to greet me. But that's beside the point. This just further reiterates what I just said. Under the presidency of Ronald Reagan, Nebraska won 83 games. Now, would you like to know who won the most football games when Richard Nixon was in the White House? By the way, thank you for sharing this, damn it, Randy. At 6-pack to go.
Nixon.
Under Nixon.
Okay, so 1969.
These are two blue bloods. One of them is Nebraska.
The other one probably Penn State.
Penn State.
Oh. Good man.
So if we're doing this right,
who are we guessing is going to win the most games in Trump's second term?
I mean, Nebraska's had better success when the Republicans in the White House.
Oh, okay.
Just ask them. They'll tell you.
We're playing that game. I didn't know which game we were playing. Okay, we're playing that game. Good.
I mean, if they start showing up in way too early top 25s today,
you are right. 2008 to 2016 was a rough time.
We're back. August 28th gets here a little bit sooner, and you're like, man, I might have been against President Trump right now, but I am all for it because when Republicans in the White House, Nebraska wins.
I do want to report the CBS too early top 25 did not have Nebraska.
Well, we're going to cut them off. Barrett Sallee. Oh, he didn't work there anymore.
Do you know who they had in at 25?
Who?
UNLV.
Watch out for UNLV.
Yeah.
By the way, Sebastian Serco, who was at Omaha North until his senior year and transferred, just committed there. I think Dan Mullen will do really well.
I think Dan Mullen's going to do great there.
I think UNLV might be the Boise State of 2025.
Ooh.
Now remember, they played Boise State in their championship game. Mm-hmm. All right, this is I got to give him love because he's probably one of the biggest Ohio State fans that I know in Buckeye Ross.
Oh yeah.
We went through it. He went away after the Michigan game.
Rightfully so. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I mean the Michigan was the stepping stone. It was what Ohio State needed, but Ohio State did that to themselves. They almost started to do it last night, where they stopped throwing the deep ball, and they lost to Michigan because they tried to be Michigan and not Ohio State.
Yeah, they trying out tough. One of the toughest teams in the country.
They played the role of Ohio State. But Buckeye Ross writes in, what's crazy is they lost 2 All-American linemen and Josh Simmons and Remington winner Seth McLaughlin. Can you imagine what the offense would have been like with those two? Give the O-line coach Justin Fry a hell of a lot of respect. He was under the gun maybe more than Day. Said that earlier. Their growth on the offensive line.
They were bad against Nebraska.
They were terrible.
They had a turnstile playing tackle.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. Another thing that is kind of shown up, I said was it with us or I was on the Common Fan podcast yesterday. Those guys are great, by the way. Michael Severe and I broke down the season. That's coming out next week.
That's awesome. I can't wait to watch
But we were
that.
talking about, because people are going to sit today and go, okay, how does Nebraska get to the playoff? If you want to dream the impossible dream, Don Quixote, you can think,
yes.
How does Nebraska win a national championship? Let's just slow the roll there,
Sure.
Jelly. Speed and strength and offensive line play, being able to run the football. Last night, Ohio State ran for 213, Notre Dame for 53. Run the ball, stop the run. You got to have some speed. You got to have good quarterback play. I mean, you got to have wide receivers that like to block, all of those things. But offensive line play just kind of, it hit you over and over about teams that are still playing have pretty good offensive line play. The Lego Maniac skips basketball today to talk about Nebraska football. $20 million roster. That's what you're freaking supposed to do. Again, it would be a bigger story if Ohio State didn't spend money. If they're like, oh, those cheap. It's pathetic that Nebraska won't outbid other teams with their NIL to build a championship-level roster. Nebraska lets Kentucky outbid them for what would be a starting left tackle when they desperately needed a left tackle out of the portal. Kentucky came in late, $2 million. It came in late, $2 million.
It will always come back to this for me, though. Ohio State built a roster to spend that money on, okay? It's not necessarily, they didn't just go buy out all these players and say, here's this super team. They actually recruited high school players and developed them and got to the point where they were worth that money.
You mean high school players want to go play at a program that's 153-19 in their last 172?
Yeah, crazy, right?
Nebraska will continue to get the results they get because they are not willing to match the other programs where it just means more. But Nebraska media will continue to be apologists for 1890. Wow. A lot in there.
A lot in there.
We'll
unpack that.
We'll discuss when we come back, because we also need to discuss the Big Ten has slighted Nebraska last night, and I'm not happy. Dave Revson, Mike Hall, Raphael Davis, Jerry DiNardo. Let's have some speaks. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Hey, do you think they ever got Travis Scott off the roof of Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
I felt like I failed us as a program because
like our show.
The
halftime discussion.
Because
yesterday.
you asked, is there going to be a halftime show? And I did some extensive research trying to figure out if there was going to be a halftime show, and I confidently said, no, there will not be any halftime festivities. And I was sitting down with my friends, and I look up, and Travis Scott is on the roof of the Mercedes-Benz building, and I'm like, wow. How did I not find out about this? How did I fail our great listeners and my co-host and my producer? How did I do that?
You think he was cold?
Yeah.
I was a little let down. I like Travis Scott. That did nothing for me.
I prefer Dennis Scott.
Are you excited for the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show?
Yeah, and I'm like, not a lot of people are.
It's the first time since,
who's he feud with?
Since the LA Super Bowl that I'm legitimately excited about a halftime show. That and when Missy Elliott came out. Oh,
I'm sure he will have plenty of friends. Like they're in New Orleans. Like Lil Wayne's got to show up, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It should have been, by the way, love Kendrick Lamar. Should have been Lil Wayne's Super Bowl halftime.
Probably Kenny Chesney was not available or some safe act.
You think they'll ever go country for a Super Bowl halftime show?
They have.
Like
Cowboys were playing in it, which says a lot.
Full country?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be safe.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually,
been a while.
Eventually, Taylor Swift has to perform at halftime.
Yes. It's been a while that she's got to get hers. Yeah.
She works for the NFL.
It's been a while though since like a country artist. Like it's mainly R&B, pop, or whatever. Katy Perry. How does Katy Perry have a halftime show, but T Swift doesn't?
She's hot.
I mean, T Swift.
Well, so last year, it's I think it got a little complicated with her relationship with Travis.
Sure.
Initially, the word was the NFL wanted her because of Vegas.
Yeah.
But she was on her tour.
Ooh.
And I mean, you have to completely pivot and put into what you're going to do for the Super Bowl halftime, rehearse all that. So I think that they decline. But I would imagine maybe the next time she's ready to come out with another album, she'll probably be the halftime show. Yeah. I think it'd be a great halftime show.
I think it'd be an incredible halftime show if it's anything like the Eras tour.
Happy BJ Day, by the way. Sorry we waited this long.
It's too cold, though. It'll work.
Everybody wanted BJ, but only one team got BJ, and that was the Bears.
I thought it was Ohio State. Sorry.
So Ben Johnson has made my little friend over here very happy.
So happy.
Congratulations, Matt.
Did you post that video that you sent me yesterday?
I did. I don't want to.
Can I do it?
Was he dancing?
Can we play this on air?
Can you?
Absolutely.
You can just
it's
post
your
it
show.
on Twitter.
Hey.
You're allowed to post it on Twitter.
No,
I have to send you a new
Twitter.
version because it shows me. No. It shows my Snapchat at the very end of it.
Okay, I'm not going to put it, but I'm going to play it for everybody. So yesterday at 3:03,
shout out Denver.
I got this text message from my little friend over there.
Not me.
And his diehard Bears, who sometimes they don't listen to their fan base.
No.
But the obvious candidate said yes to the Bears, and the Bears were aggressive and also financially aggressive that Ben Johnson is being rumored to make $13 to $15 million a year to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
I never thought I'd see the day.
So yesterday, and everybody knows Matt's a huge Bears fan. Like there is
Wait,
Bears.
Your hat's not on anymore.
His mom.
I got hat.
Family, God, hockey. Okay, this is what he sent me yesterday. Okay, hold on.
Chicago Bears. We'll never forget the way. We're taking the North.
So
taking the North.
Had the sunglasses on. I
Hey,
was bright in there.
Jimmy Chavez.
I'm not judging.
You never forget the way the Bears throw the nation with the T formation. You never forget it. All right? It's like the Alamo. You don't forget that.
They lost.
Whoa, he lived in San Antonio.
Exactly.
They lost.
You don't forget about it.
People died.
Let me tell you something right now.
Hey, Mr. Gulf of America, stop trying to change history.
You enjoy your time at the top. You stay at the bottom.
Oh,
the
don't
Bears
worry.
are
I will
coming.
be.
The Bears are coming.
As long as Jerry's alive,
coming.
nobody's coming.
I want to say something right now. I got a tweet that pissed me off yesterday.
Why? It was
it's from a guest of ours.
It was
A
Brian
respected.
Johnson
No, it was from a respected guest of ours.
Hey, be easy on Jacob. He had a rough day yesterday.
From Coach Ben Oddie.
Oh yeah.
Was another basketball take?
He goes, hot take for you. Maybe you should stop doing that, Ben. This won't work out. The Bears don't need an X's and O's guy. They need a proven culture builder at head coach to help turn it around and with great coordinators under him. Can you not piss on my parade? Can you let me be happy? I got a question for you, Gary.
Yeah.
There are six incredible X's and O's head coaches in the NFL. Okay, 6 great. The first one's Andy Reid. Okay,
no argument there.
The next 5: Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Okay, those 4,
except in the Super Bowl.
Those 4 offensive genius, incredible amount of success. The 5th one with a mild amount of success, Mike McDaniel. Okay, but Shanahan, O'Connell, LaFleur, and McVay. Do you know how much head coaching experience those guys had before they took over their teams? Zero. Okay? You know what?
Why are you hollering at me?
George Halas had no experience when he took over.
I'm happy for you.
You're talking to me. You're talking to me. Everyone goes, well, you know, what happened last time you got Matt Nagy? The last time you hired a sexy offensive coordinator, you hired Matt Nagy. Yeah, we should have won the Super Bowl in his first year as head coach. We made the playoffs 2 times in 4 years.
Ditka had no experience.
We had 2 winning seasons. I'm so happy.
I'm happy for you. I hope it doesn't come to Ben Johnson was just good because of the players in Detroit.
Yeah, I'm worried about that as well. I am. It definitely is a downgrade going from David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jameson Williams, who's probably faster than anyone on the Bears, to an old Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, who seems like he doesn't want to be there anymore.
But I'm happy for you because you got your obvious choice. You interviewed Eddie George. You checked the box. Sorry, Eddie, you were the Rooney Rule candidate.
No, they interviewed other guys.
Could sign Eddie as a running back. He's still got a couple carries.
Let's see. We got to interview Eddie George on a Sunday, and Ben Johnson is announced as the new head coach on a Monday.
They interviewed Aaron Glenn. They interviewed David Shaw.
They interviewed George Halas.
They interviewed David Shaw.
They
interviewed a lot of guys.
Jack Pardee.
So I'm happy for you. So there are 5 jobs that are left open. This must mean that Mike McCarthy and the Saints will have a marriage.
And then Glenn to the Jets?
Yeah, Aaron Glenn. It sounds like this morning he is having his second interview and they won't let him leave the building. So they're going to tie Aaron Glenn in with a general manager.
And the Cowboys will hire Darryl from Grapevine.
But I wonder this. So if Trent Baalke is not in Jacksonville and the GM is open, does Ben Johnson look at the Jags?
So be coach GM.
So Robert Saleh they like, but I think Liam Cohn is going to get the job there. Your puppet, your guy needs a puppet. So Kellen Moore will be the head coach of the Cowboys.
I still think he'll be.
So the Raiders.
You don't think it'll be Cliff? Could be. I mean,
no, I think Cliff's. Why would you leave Jaden Daniels right
now?
So
that's another thing too, where Cliff easily could stay, and I think that's why he wasn't taking interviews during the week leading up to Detroit. Is I think he realizes that he could stay for another year, and then he can be Ben Johnson next year. And then on top of that, Kingsbury does have an advantage of like teams appreciate the fact that he was a head coach. He has won 11 games in a season before. I think that's the play there.
Then the last one, so
the Raiders,
and it sounds like they want a big name.
Where?
Pete Carroll?
Tom Flores?
Those would be my predictions as this is all unfolding, getting to the finish line.
Bring Gruden back.
My thing with Pete is that you're at the point, so he's 72 years old. He would be a great coach for a team where they're going through like a retooling phase because he's probably only realistically 4 to 6 years left in his desired coaching cycle.
But it's Vegas, and so you need a name.
You need a name.
You got Tom Brady in the front office.
But I don't think Pete's the guy where you're like, all right, we're going to rebuild completely. We're going to stamp this. This is like it's almost like the job that Harbaugh took last year with the LA Chargers, where, okay, this is a team. They've been around the playoff discussion before. They have the quarterback. They have the offensive line. They have pieces of a defense. We just need a coach to come in and raise the floor of this team and get them going right away. That's the type of position that Pete Carroll needs to step into. Pete Carroll doesn't need to step into a Las Vegas Raiders job where there's nothing there, where it's ripped down to the studs minus Brock Bowers and Max Crosby. When Crosby very well could be not on the team in a year.
All true, but I think they want a name, and Pete Carroll would be a name.
Yeah, a lot of money to get him out.
The Big Ten yesterday screwed Nebraska. They forgot about Nebraska last night as they were celebrating back-to-back Big Ten titles between Michigan and Ohio State. First time it's happened since the 60s. Are they?
Your move basketball.
So they'll take Nebraska's performance in the 90s and put it on Big Ten Classic, but they won't recognize that a Big Ten team won back-to-back titles in 94 and 95. What are we doing here? Tony Petitti to Kevin Warren to Jim Delaney. What are we doing here? We will recognize certain things about Nebraska. We take credit for Nebraska having a Heisman Trophy winner in as a Big Ten, even though, as I recall, they were firmly in the Big 12 back then.
And you would know.
But they won't recognize the back-to-back titles by one school.
They won't recognize that 2 Big Ten schools won the title in the same year. 1997.
True.
1997.
Yeah, that's right. Nebraska did win 2 titles in the same year. That is wild.
2 Big Ten teams were national champions.
I think it's disrespect. I think Nebraska should go looking somewhere else.
Hey, look, I just think it's what have you and I talked about? If you're going to be bad, be consistent about it. You know, just have some consistency.
So August 28th will be here in 219 days.
It's good counting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the way too early top 25s are coming out. Whether you want to look at them or not, you will for a couple of minutes. You'll get jonesed about it. There is a thing, though, I don't put a ton of stock in them. Perception does matter. So I'm very curious. Like Andy Staples has Nebraska as 25 on 3. And it's perception. Like I look at some of these preseason top 25s, and I don't know enough about what's left at Iowa State, but Iowa State is like in the top 15. And so perception matters.
Yes.
People think Matt Campbell has Iowa State after their season they had, almost got to the playoff, beat Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Matt Campbell is staying.
Won a toaster.
They're headed in the right direction. So I look at it just from the standpoint of, hey, perception matters. How much does it matter of the type of game Nebraska and Ohio State played in Columbus in late October? You heard that referenced a lot last night by Husker Twitter.
That's a great question.
Now, think about this. So that Ohio State defense is elite. 9 times this year, or 25 times this year, opponents got to first and goal. And only 9 times Ohio State shut them out, shut their opponent out. 25 times against Ohio State this year, teams got to first and goal. 9 times, they didn't score. So that defense was absolutely filthy all season long for Ohio State. I mean, this is a roster that's got 14 NFL draft picks on it. But Oregon, Nebraska, Indiana, and Notre Dame are the only 4 teams to score more than 2 touchdowns against Ohio State this year. And we all know how the game in Columbus unfolded. Do you want to go there? Do you want to go there, or do you want to say, like I did right away, Ohio State had no interest in playing Nebraska that day, and they were thinking about the following week, and they treated it accordingly, and they almost got burned for it.
They looked bored.
They got lucky. Ohio State got lucky. And I'll say it, because you know what? It was 4th and goal on the 2-yard line, and Dante Dowdell is right there. And if he just gets in the end zone, it's a whole different college football outlook. Okay? Nebraska very well go on to win that. I mean,
Ryan Day might have not made it to the next week, because that would have been 2 losses in a row off a bye week as a heavy favorite at home against Nebraska.
They were
not like Nebraska played great in that game.
I have a tough time saying lucky, because there was nothing lucky about them stuffing Dante Dowdell at the goal line. But you're right. They did everything they possibly could to just stall out on offense, to not win that game, they had matchup advantages. I see what Jeremiah Smith is doing to these secondaries in the college football playoff, and I'm stunned that he only had 1 long touchdown against Nebraska. I am stunned that that's all he did against NU. Like, geez, man, how did this guy not, especially against some of the dudes that they were having lined up over Jeremiah Smith?
Because you saw yesterday, there are times that Ohio State forgot about throwing the deep ball.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the second half. This is what could have got really interesting last night. You know, at one point, Ohio State's up 31-7, and then Notre Dame has a pulse, and you're like, hey, isn't this the same building that the Patriots were down 28-3?
Sure.
One of the craziest things about that game is the Patriots came back in that game, and they never had an onside kick. So you're like, could this really happen? Look at the play calling in the second half when Notre Dame started to make it tight. Okay, there was some, starting to pucker.
Yeah.
Why is Will Howard just running zone read after zone read? Why are they not throwing the ball down the field?
Just trying to run out the clock.
I didn't understand.
But I think they did that. There were times this year where you said, okay, Notre Dame said they were going to play man coverage, and then they couldn't, but they weren't comfortable playing zone, so they had to go back to man. And Will Howard all year long ate up man coverage with the wide receivers that he had. I mean, he was pinpoint. Last night he was pinpoint. His first incompletion was the great play by Watts on Henderson, towards the goal line. But you have won it all year. You have Jeremiah Smith, who would be the first overall non-quarterback pick in this year's draft if he was eligible. But we get him and Ryan Williams of Alabama for the next 2 years. Why were they not throwing the ball deep? They didn't hardly throw the ball deep in the second half.
No, they didn't. And when I for the life of me, I couldn't understand. So when Notre Dame scored, right, and they get the ball back, and on the second play of the 3 and out, they just Will Howard grabs the ball and he starts running with it forward. I'm like, what are you doing? You have draft pick after draft pick around you. Use it, abuse it. I'll never forget. Like, funny enough, Alabama, Ohio State, 2020. Mm-hmm. If you remember that game, Devonta Smith was the Heisman Trophy winner of that season. That entire game plan of Alabama was, we're just going to find a way to get the ball in our Heisman Trophy winner's hand, and he's just going to run. He's just going to sprint, and he's just going to outpace you all game. At times I thought, and they did try doing it on that weird end-around direct snap in the first quarter, which was, and then funny enough, Notre Dame tried doing the same play with their tight end later on. Like, that was a weird instance.
We almost had danger where guys in motion, the ball was snapped almost when they were directly behind the center and could have hit them.
But regardless of it, it's funny. Like, you watch these games, and I've learned so much about just the game of football just over the last like couple of years, 5, 6, 7 years, just like being at Nebraska and watching with guys like you who've seen it your entire life, watching it with guys who've played it.
Subtle, you're friggin' old, Sharp. Thank you.
No, but you know a lot about football, like whatever.
That's what I did too.
You can really tell when the nerves set in where you can tell a lot about a coach and a lot about what they're thinking by what they're calling on the field when it's happening. And it's a lot so with, you can see with James Franklin, like it's very clear and obvious with James Franklin. Like, hey, James is getting nervous. Like, it's a big, like, you could, like, oh, he just ran the ball 3 times down the throat. They just got 5 yards and 3 runs. Everyone knew they were going to do it. Now they got to punt the ball.
Sounds like Marty Schottenheimer.
Like, it was kind of happening when Notre Dame was creeping back. It's almost as if like Ohio State was losing the grip of that game until that. I'm going to say it right now. That fade ball, I will not get off of that. That second and goal fade ball was kind of like they were losing the grip of the game, and then they threw it, and then OSU goes, oh, okay, you're not going to run the ball twice from the 7-yard line against our D-line with your injured running back. We're going to now play pass defense on what we've been doing all year at the goal line better than anyone else in the country. And then they tried out the field goal unit, and I guarantee you everybody on that Ohio State intercom is laughing. They're probably laughing. They're like, what the hell is Freeman doing?
Well, there was, like yesterday.
They got bailed out a little bit.
Hey.
They got bailed, slightly. They got bailed out.
Well, that was a day that we united on Twitter. Everybody was like, what is Marcus Freeman doing? There was not a lot of uniting yesterday on Twitter. But there was uniting over, why are you kicking a field goal to go from a 2-score game to a 2-score game? And you're playing Ohio State, who can score like that.
I'm not saying that Ohio State got bailed out on the fact that they definitely would have lost that game. I think they would have won the game regardless. Mm-hmm. But they got bailed out on the fact that Notre Dame could have put a lot more heat on them at the end of that game.
That's why you go for it.
Exactly.
You're playing Ohio State. But back to the Nebraska-Ohio State game, where Nebraska led in the fourth quarter, people forget that.
People forget.
That's, again, I think I said it right away. I was on Big Red Overreaction. This looked like a game where Ohio State just wanted to get through it because they had Penn State on the back end.
In a big Penn State game, like a Penn State game where people were like, they're going to lose.
They had a couple injuries, and they're just like, we're better than Nebraska. Let's just win the game. And it was a missed opportunity for Nebraska because they could have wrecked Ohio State if they would have won that game. So I don't want to play transitive property, even though Nebraska should hang a banner if you look at how they played Ohio State compared to other teams. I mean, they didn't get beat by double figures. The 4 teams that Ohio State played in the playoff, top 10, all double figures.
I'll say this right now, too. Like,
hang the banner.
That Will Howard zone.
Along with that offseason banner?
That zone run by...
They're going to be crowded in the Hawks Championship Center.
That zone run, do you know what that play reminded me of? The last play Ohio State had on offense against Nebraska, where they threw that little weird screen pass out to the right, and then Nebraska just blew it up in the corner, and it was clearly just waving the white flag of like, all right, we're going to play defense. Like, you're not going to march down on us. and score on this defense. You're not going to do it. Go ahead, try. Like, that's kind of what Ohio State did to Notre Dame. They're like, all right, we'll put you at the 13-yard line. Have fun. Have fun, Riley. Good luck. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, a little bit later in the hour, Sam McEwen will stop by. It's Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Underdog is the best place to cash it on all your takes during the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion, What Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash it on all your favorite athletes' performances. With their pick'em game, you can win 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like yards, touchdowns, interceptions, anything they keep stats on. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. With Underdog's double flex option, you can even take 2 L's and turn them into a W. Good, because I took L's last night. Thanks, Irish. Anyway, this week on Underdog, I'm looking at the AFC and NFC championship games because they're both going to be bangers. Underdog's the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. This must be 19 Nebraska present and staying where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. To start with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, welcome back in. Sam McEwen of the World Herald is going to join us here in a little bit. We're now off to the off season. You may see some names that show up in the portal because Nebraska is back in school. So some guys may just not come back to school. But the off season is here, 219 days away. A Thursday night at Arrowhead. It'll be 85 and humid. Nebraska, Cincinnati.
Ooh, 85. It'll be chilly.
It'll be kickoff 7:05 kickoff on Big Fox.
When we get closer to the kickoff of that game, we definitely should do like a longer segment with you and you giving us Arrowhead tips. What not to do, what to do, where to go, when to get to the game, what's the layout, where the
upper deck sucks, lower levels pretty nice.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't think well, it depends on the upper deck where you sit.
Exactly. Like this would be a great segment for you to be like, these sections are nice.
Riveting.
No?
No.
There's a burn-in mac and cheese they sell
at
a
7-minute, this is what you got to do.
No.
No? Does it sound like good radio to you?
No.
All right, maybe you and I will just have a private conversation.
435 is your friend.
435.
I'll explain when we get closer.
Yeah, that's true. It's in the interstate. It's one of the many interstates around Kansas.
Okay,
so I have two things about last night that have nothing to do with Ohio State and Notre Dame, but have to do with the sport that I absolutely love.
Sure.
I'm going to be sad. I'm going to go into a dark place because we will have no more college football for a while. We're going to have a long off season. Okay. We need to talk about the calendar of college football. I say drop spring football, move the season up, but I'm not in charge of the sport. But it's a great sport. We love the sport. We have a problem, though. We have two major problems that have to be rectified. I thought kickoff last night was at 6:30.
Yeah, but believe me, I was bitching.
Yeah. So kickoff wasn't until 6:45.
Yeah.
The NFL, when the NFL tells you they're going to start at 3:25, you know when kickoff is? 3:25.
Typically
3:27, but yeah. I mean, it's spot on.
The NFL is. So college football is just willy-nilly. We're going to start at 6:30. Next thing I know, I got the great sign language interpreter, which got the fantastic name, Georgia Peaches.
Yeah.
Spelled Johrgia. Fantastic. I thought it was a made-up.
Same thing.
I thought it was a made-up name. I googled it. It is her name. Georgia Peaches was the sign language interpreter. So.
That whole assassin.
But 6:30. We're starting at 6:30. Kickoff is until 6:45. Now the first quarter went. It was in real time. It was only 28 minutes. I was keeping track. We've got to fix that in college football. The other thing we got to fix.
Give it I know this is going to be gold coming up right here.
We got some blind sideline officials. Okay, this is harkening back to Nebraska, Ohio
State. Harken again. You keep harkening back to harken.
Trying to reach the older demo, 65 plus.
This is an educational program.
Take them away from KFAV. We got a problem in college football, and it has nothing to do with the NIL or the portal. I'm here to tell you, we are a great country. We are a fabulous country. We make so many things. We put people on the moon. My president told me yesterday we're going to put somebody on Mars.
Yeah. I've seen Total Recall.
That seems to be a little bit out there, but hey, let's shoot for the stars.
With Elon, anything's possible with Elon.
I need a third hand.
Buckle up. I'm amused. I just thought my checking account is good. We don't start a war, any of that kind of stuff. I'm good.
As long as eggs go down.
Yeah, and I was waiting at the grocery store yesterday for somebody at Hy-Vee to come change the price.
No,
they didn't. I got lied to. I thought the egg prices were going to go down just like that.
It was like the stock market. All of a sudden, it just seems like a red arrow just dropping.
I thought.
Mortimer!
I thought Phyllis at the Hy-Vee at 90th and Center was going to be there, and she was going to start changing the egg prices. You know what? Phyllis walked by. I said, "How you doing, Phyllis?" And she said, "Hi, Gary. How are you?" And I said, "You know what? I love people at Hy-Vee because they got a smile on every eye."
Exactly.
Like Winthorpe over there buying your orange juice at Hy-Vee, waiting for it to crash.
But there were no egg prices being changed. But this is what we need to do. I don't know if I need to talk to Deb Fisher, if I need to talk to my former co-worker, Mike Flood. I don't know if I need to talk to my good friend Don Bacon. I don't know if I need to go directly to the president. I don't know if I need to talk to the former president. I don't know who I talk to, but we got to get this fixed because we have a major problem in this country when it comes to the beloved sport of football, and especially college football. How come we can't get sensors in football?
Because we have them, Gary. We have them in them. We just refuse to use them.
That is amazing. Because last night we had an issue again of spotting the friggin' football. It is a problem. Okay, we're already
first drive of the game. We're like, that's a first.
We're already putting the silver sluggers out of business that hold the chains. Okay, because we say we don't need them. Why don't we have sensors in football so we can properly mark the spot of the football? Last night, there was a play in the first quarter that they were off 3 yards, and I'm like, this is Nebraska-Ohio State all over again. Use the sensors. Please, thank you.
We have a sensor. We know the spin rate and speed and angle and trajectory of a Riley Leonard throwing football. We know exactly how fast that thing is moving, exactly how fast that thing is spinning. Yet we absolutely refuse to put the ball in the right spot on the field. And it happened to the Houston Kansas City game where you had one referee from the right side run out and he's signaling, hey, it's a first down, and you had the other referee on the far side of the field. He was a good yard away from the other referee saying, no, it's not a first down. And then what did they do? They cut it in the middle and they go, well, it's basically 4th and inches. They had no clue where that ball was.
We need sensors.
But it's the same thing with the robo umps. It's like we don't want to take away jobs and we want to keep the human aspect in the game. And
that has nothing to do with taking away jobs.
Well,
they'll still have their job.
Yeah.
It's just if you have a thing about spotting the football, if you have it within range, it goes, the football lights up. Kind of like the glowing puck.
But sometimes you got to give someone a job to make them feel good, you know?
What, you give a job to the football? The football ain't doing its job. The football is not spotting itself. It needs to be spotting itself. We've got a problem. We need to use the sensors. Because, I mean, the Nebraska-Ohio State game was a debacle. Last night could have been, like, that. What if that was a key play?
I was about to say, it's on the biggest stage. I've talked about
Index card.
We talk about all these new rules in the MLB and whatnot, and whether or not we like them. I go, we'll figure out whether or not we like them when they come to play in the biggest spots in the game. When we play in the World Series or in the NLCS, and then they come to play, then we'll figure out if it's really worth it or not.
All right, Sam McEwen's coming up next. Also, if you missed it yesterday, the Kansas City Buffalo game at Arrowhead. Did you guys see who the white hat is?
Carl Cheffers.
I run into him. I run into him a lot. I like him. He's they buy advertising on the radio station. It seems like every time I go to Bagel Bin, I run in and I'm standing right next to Clete Blakeman.
Oh, Clete, nice.
Clete Blakeman is working the Kansas City Buffalo game. Congratulations to him.
Shout out, Clete.
No, Clete,
remember.
I know Clete because they brought up how he's from Blair, Nebraska, and how he went to UNL, and like he's from the area. They brought it up before on like the broadcast. I've looked him up before watching games.
We see him on TV.
I know Clete. I'm aware. Hey, I got it. You have Orangina? I got it.
I've had
Georgia Peaches.
I got it.
That is a great name.
The best name.
Sam McEwen. Simple name. He'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. It's cold. It's dark outside. The offseason for college football is here. Who are we kidding? It never stops. But we can dream of warmer weather and being in Arrowhead on a Thursday night. We welcome in Sam McCune of the Omaha World Health. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, last night with Ohio State winning, let me go at a different angle here. What did Ohio State's run over the last 4 games in the playoff, what did that do to the regular season? Does the regular season matter more or less if you look at Ohio State this year?
Well, I think it matters a little less, right? Because Ohio State lost 2 games and they won the national championship. So it matters a little bit less in the sense that the team that went on to win the whole thing did not have the kind of regular season that you would associate with a 14 playoff champion, because they wouldn't have won it if it were a 4-team event. It would have been left out. So there's that. I think it that's something probably to mark. I don't think the conference championship games probably mean as much as they did. Ohio State didn't really play for one of those and probably was not hurt by the fact that they didn't. Mm-hmm. I think, Oregon got 3 or 4 weeks off. Ohio State got 2. I thought that game was very notable. The mismatch. Ohio State really outplayed Oregon and just seemed physically better. Obviously the story about this season was about talent, and it was about the most talented team winning. Now, those talented guys play very hard. I mean, Quinton Judkins probably cost a couple of $1 million, and he had a hell of a game. Mm-hmm. And same for Jeremiah Smith, same for Caleb Downs. Like, these guys are not just making money. They're good, and that's one of the reasons why they won. Not unlike Connecticut basketball a couple years ago, they're 4 seed. They run all the way through the NCAA tournament. They hammer everybody, and they were 4 seed. That's kind of what this was. I mean, Ohio State was what amounted to a 2 seed, I guess a 3 seed. I don't know. And, they took care of business, and they were the best team. And it doesn't mean they're going to be the best team next year. Does not mean that. Doesn't mean that at all. You're just going to have to see what happens. I think Notre Dame's advancement to the final probably says a little bit more about the playoff than anything, because that was they were able to pull that off. They made the march to the final game and probably did it with, I don't know, decent but not great skill talent. I don't think Riley Leonard is a great player. I don't. Their running backs are good. Their receivers are nondescript. They were able to do that with a good defense and toughness and all the rest. And I think that's the template for a lot of other teams. I think the way that Ohio State did it is hard for most people to emulate, including Ohio State. I don't know that Ohio State will be able to emulate what it did this year with its roster.
Okay, so you kind of got to my question before I asked it. I was going to ask you, do you think how Ohio State built the roster, the very famously, named $20 million roster, do you think that is kind of the standard of how championships are going to be won now amongst the big hitters?
Well, I mean, other teams are going to have that much money to spend, and I really don't know if it was just $20 million. It could be any amount that you want to imagine. I don't really know. So, yeah, I mean, I think other teams will be able to spend more because they have the ability to do it, and not every school has boosters that are willing to just put that money, in a separate fund aside from it. But at the same time, not many athletic departments have the advantages that Nebraska and Ohio State and Michigan and Texas and a few others have. So, Nebraska's fan base is extraordinary and has put Nebraska in a position to compete at a very high level for some of the best players in college football. And we've actually seen that in the transfer portal. I think Nebraska has attracted more transfers than perhaps Nebraska anticipated. Mm-hmm. And it now has, one of the best football buildings in the sport. It now will have maybe the best practice field facility in the sport. Mm-hmm. And that's all because of the fans. That's not because of anything other than the support that's generated within the state. And, Ohio State can compete with that. And they have. They've done a great job. But there aren't many programs that can, including some of the SEC schools that we talk all the time about. I don't know if some of those schools can compete.
That playing field has been leveled. That's a good starting point, because I want to go deeper on that, because we've seen the last 2 years that to compete and to win a national championship, you got to spend money. You got to spend money on your roster. You got to spend money on your staff. You just alluded to something, and we know Nebraska has some advantages. And it's kind of an interesting time with Nebraska because they're going into year 3, and I can sense optimism. They're also going into an offseason where sooner than later we're going to hear about this grandiose stadium project. Yeah. Do you think, because it's not only having the head coach and his support staff and a roster, it's having the fan base. Sam, do you truly believe that the Nebraska fan base understands the commitment it takes to play for a national championship?
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I do. I think that there is there's a kind of, well, look at how Nebraska did it in the 90s perspective. That, and again, Nebraska had great players in the 90s, but I think there was like, well, the seats were like this back in the 90s, but Nebraska also was ahead of the game in strength and conditioning, and they had the video boards, and they had innovated. They were ahead of many other programs in some ways. And I've said this 100 times. The difference between Nebraska football and almost all of the Big Eight, Kansas State, Missouri, whatever, is most of those schools chose to prioritize basketball in the 70s. That's what they made a conscious choice. Missouri was pretty good in the 70s, and then they went basketball. Norm Stewart, all the rest. And Norm Stewart was a great, he's a legend. But they didn't prioritize football in the same way as Nebraska did. Nebraska made a choice. It's obviously affected the basketball program up until now. But that choice separated, the Nebraskas from Kansas State, Iowa State, and Missouri in football. Now, all those schools have kind of caught up. I mean, they've reinvested. And so, none of those schools are really behind anymore. And 3 of those schools had better records than Nebraska this year. But Nebraska had an edge for a very long time because it prioritized football. And that's not to say that they didn't have better coaches. They did have better coaches, right? They did. I mean, Tom Osborne was a better coach than Woody Woodenhofer or whomever. God bless all the guys that were coaching at those schools, but they weren't Tom Osborne. But at the same time, Nebraska had the material and the support system. And so Nebraska now has to understand to reinvest and to get even where Iowa is on a consistent basis actually does take quite a bit of money. And yes, it does take a good staff. And I felt like Rule's first staff wasn't as good as it could be. And I do feel like this staff is much closer to the level of staff you need to go where you want to go.
Sam, watching and looking at Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman and how they've built these programs, do you think that there's anything that Matt Rule can take away from how these two coaches have built these teams into national championship contenders?
Well, I think that the things that Day has done are obviously to recruit effectively inside his own state. Yep. There's more good players in Ohio. Yep. Recruit effectively in Atlanta. Recruit the portal. Choose the players that you want, right? Kind of like Duke basketball might. Marcus Freeman hasn't had as much time on the job, but what he has done, I think, in a very short amount of time, is taken some good football players and infused them with a kind of purpose. And so, I think it's fair to say that Notre Dame, most of the players that were out on that field were recruited under the Brian Kelly administration. They're not playing a ton of young guys. But what Marcus Freeman did, and Kelly deserves some credit for this because he basically put Marcus Freeman in the position, but Freeman deserves the lion's share of credit for creating the intangible that Notre Dame lacked under Kelly, and LSU also lacks under Kelly. Freeman, the reason he's such a good head coach is he has created the purpose within that program that I think is going to go a long way. So, there's a quality about Freeman that is just larger than the X's and O's.
Sure.
And you heard it at the beginning of that fourth quarter. He's like, hey, we need to make this and this and this happen. And by God, they did it. They created a turnover and they scored. And obviously I didn't like the coverage strategy on that third down, but Notre Dame has a culture of belief and a purpose. And I think Matt Rule has created that. But Freeman's a good example of how it's larger than just the players on the field. Notre Dame's down 31-7. At that point, it could have ended up 52-7, and it would not have surprised anyone. But the reality is Notre Dame made it tight because their head coach just has those guys believing that they can make anything happen.
Sam McCune of the World Herald joining us. Significance of Deshaun Singleton coming back.
I think it's good. Singleton, if healthy, is a top half Big Ten player. He is a very good player if he's healthy, and he may be really healthy now. He's obviously coming off an injury last year. Maybe he didn't quite as fast as he wanted to be. 71 tackles, I think, last year. So I think his return is really encouraging. As would Javen Wright's be if he's healthy. We'll see where Javen Wright's health is, and I'm sure they'll handle that and monitor it the right way. But those are two very high level athletes. Singleton's a good player, and provided that he's healthy. So that'll be competition in the back end, and he knows the defense. I think he must like John Butler if he's coming back. So I think that's encouraging, and I think I think that Nebraska will find a place for him. They don't necessarily need to play him every snap. They should have enough depth back there to play people, but I do think he'll probably be a starter.
Sam, speed kills. We saw it get Notre Dame. We saw it with Ohio State. Heck, we even saw it with Penn State. I think you're looking at this Nebraska wide receiver room at this point, and there's a lot of speed there. Cortez Mills, Ja'Cory Barney, Hardly Gilmore that they brought in from Kentucky. In terms of it, and you've been obviously been around the program for a very long time. In terms of just dynamic athleticism and speed, where do you think this wide receiver room ranks amongst other wide receiver rooms we've seen in the past with Nebraska?
Well, I don't know that it reaches what Nebraska had in the 90s. For as little as Nebraska threw, the athletes on the field were extraordinary.
Yeah,
and they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's up there, though. I mean, I think they have the ability to make plays, and certainly you want. I mean, I think Dane Key is the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
In terms of just pure athleticism, when you combine all the pieces, the speed, the fluidity. Of course, you want to be fast, of course, but you want fluidity too. You want fluidity of route. I mean, Ohio State's number 4 receiver last night in a key situation runs a beautiful route, and he's a number 4 receiver.
Yeah.
Like, he's the number 1 guy. He's number 4. And so you need that up and down the roster. I think being key, and then I think what we're going to see is that Barney is up there, and then we'll see with Jeremiah Jones. We talked about him. I don't really know what they're going to do with him exactly. Maybe they'll play him at receiver, and then you put Carter Nelson at tight end, and that's an incredible athlete. So maybe the best athlete on the team in some ways. So I think they're in really good shape athletically. You always want your running back to be an elite athlete. Of course, they're interchangeable or whatever people want to say, but the reality is Ohio State's running backs were the best. That was the best running back tandem in the country, and you saw it in the playoffs. They were dominant in the playoffs. You couldn't stop them.
No.
So there's a reason why Ohio State won the title. Of course, Jeremiah Smith, but those two running backs, nobody wanted to tackle. No one by the end of the season.
Jeremiah Smith, Adrian Peterson, anybody else that you would say, man, after their freshman year in college, they should go pro?
Those are the two that I think come to mind first and foremost. I'm sure there's a receiver that I'm forgetting, but those are the two that come to my mind. Yeah, those two guys probably should have been able to go to the NFL right away, and you got to find a way to keep Smith sharp, right? And I think he will. I think his story is that his dad is basically his trainer, and I think his dad will keep him sharp, but this is going to be a deal now where the only thing this guy can do is win a Heisman, which I think he can do, and then win 3 national titles in a row, probably with 3 different quarterbacks.
Shoot. Yeah, well, that you just made a good point.
Yeah,
possibly 3 different quarterbacks.
They don't know who their quarterback is right now. They don't know. Julian's saying is that I'm sure they would like that to be the case. In other words, for him to be the elite player and to be the next first round draft pick, but they don't know, and they're going to have to process it through. I mean, Devin Brown transferred, so he's out, presumably because everybody kind of feels like Julian Sand's going to be the guy, but they don't know that. And again, if Ryan Day decides to stay on, and let's remember, not all these NFL jobs are open. He could go tomorrow, and there would be teams that would hire him. If he's like, you know what, I want to go work with Dak Prescott, do you think they would hire Ryan Day? They would. So if he decides to stay on, then the mission from there is, of course, beat Michigan, but also win as many of these things as possible so that, like, they can't do anything but build a statue of you. And so he's going to have to figure out the quarterback position year after year after year. And unless Saban's the answer, then they have to go out in the spring and find a guy, because they don't have a guy. They don't have a guy right now. And so now, of course, they'll be able to do that. They'll be able to go out and get a guy to leave their program wherever they're at and come in and play. But you know, that's tricky to do because you have to do it back channel and you can't tamper and all the rest. So I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be really intriguing to watch. And again, I would watch the next 7 days with Ryan Day. Does he have anything left to prove at Ohio State?
No,
I don't think so.
No, not really.
So, like,
that environment.
Now, there aren't that many great jobs out there. Like, the jobs are not good. The Cowboy job is in theory good, but it's not that good.
Vegas?
Maybe.
Vegas wants a name, Sam. Yeah.
They don't have a quarterback.
They do have a draft pick.
And, you know, they do have a draft pick, or don't they? I don't know. But they don't have a quarterback. The Jets is open, right?
Yeah. Who wants to work for Woody Johnson? No.
I don't think anybody wants that job. The Patriots is already filled. That would have been a Ryan Day job.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think he'll probably come back. But then again, the only thing you can do then is everything is on a razor's edge every week. Like, because the fan base there just does not trust that he's done a good job. And he has. Like, my wife was talking about it last night because, you know, she was rooting for Notre Dame. She's a Notre Dame fan. And she she knows football really well. And so she remembers the third base comment that Jim Harbaugh made.
Yeah.
And, like, she knows all that stuff. And so I'm like, you know, but there aren't been a lot of coaches that were born on third base that have had his level of success. And I said, I started rattling them off. Like, this coach was born on third base, didn't have Ryan Day's level of success. This coach was born on third base. Like, Kalen DeBoer went 9-4 this year.
Yeah.
Ryan Day never went 9-4. He went 13-1 in his first year. Like, that guy's not ever going to have a 4-loss season. So, like, let's not act like he's done nothing. But she's also right that, like, he inherited the very best situation possible, whereas Harbaugh took over a mess, a total mess, and turned it into a national champion. Harbaugh's a better head coach. I'll grant you that. But Ryan Day's done a heck of a job. And, you know, is he appreciated enough in Ohio? I don't know. If he does decide to leave, everybody knows who Ohio State's going to try to hire, right? Marcus Freeman. So, and people might want that. The fans might be like, "Yeah, we're happy that you did that. Now we're going to bring a Buckeye home, and he's going to be our coach." I don't know what they're thinking over there. So we'll see what happens. I assume Day will stay, but he could go to the NFL. He could go coach the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep. You never know. Sam, as always, we appreciate it. Have a good week.
See you, Sam.
Take care.
Sam McCune of the World Herald. Opening game. I think Fox and ESPN will be there. Texas at Ohio State.
Yeah.
From the Shoe on August 30th.
That's awesome.
2 more hours of an awesome program to come. Joker, by the way, has just beaten Alcaraz in 4.
I thought you meant Jokic. I was like, whoa.
Nope.
Oh.
Greatest of all time.
He's holding off the young kid.
He's reaching a new level.
I love me some Australian Open. We'll come back. Hour number 3, Brian Christopherson, Andy Kendi still to come on 1620 The Zone.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back in. Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone, on the TV, the stream, the app, in person. Come to 50th and Capitol. Come on into the studio.
Bring
wherever
breakfast.
you consume the program. Tonight on this very fine radio station, Creighton and DePaul in Chicago, where the fees on the tickets are more expensive. So if you want to hop in the car now and drive to Chicago, you can get a pretty good seat behind the Creighton bench to watch Creighton and DePaul play tonight.
This the usual CBS Sports Network 5:30 or whatever you said?
I didn't look at the start time. I know what the line is. I was a little bit surprised at the line.
I kind of want to bet it. I kind of want to bet it.
So DePaul.
So let's see here. Who can get there first? It's at 8:00. It's on FS1.
Oh, good night.
6.5.
Huh. Yeah, I saw that last night.
So Creighton is only a 6.5 point favorite against DePaul.
That hammer that. Can we
hammer for DePaul or
hammer for Creighton?
I don't know, man. Vegas knows things.
It is a weird line.
I wouldn't touch it.
It is
6.5. DePaul has won one Big East game in 400 years.
Hey, Ed Cooley, the American dream. How about that?
Well, it's Kyle and Neptune.
I mean,
there's a meltdown by if you dabbled away from the football and watched some basketball last night, you got to see Rutgers, who Rutgers is. Dylan Harper was not good. Ace Bailey was great. Rutgers got beat last night. They gave up 80 to Penn State. And then Villanova, Villanova, people were saying, could this be the year they get the NCAA tournament? They got Eric Dixon. He might be one of the players of the year in the Big East. Then they forgot to score in the last 4:52.
Yeah, a prerequisite for winning.
Micah Peavy, who is an all Big East guy, hit the game-winning bucket. Georgetown rallies to win on the road. The main line, not so good in Philadelphia. And Georgetown, Ed Cooley got a victory. What is Georgetown, 13-6?
I believe so here. I can look here on my trusty CBS Sports app. They are 13-6. They just lost to DePaul. So Georgetown was reeling after losing to DePaul. I was watching the game. I think it was like 52-41 with 9 minutes left in the game. And I go, oh, okay, this one's turn it off. I went downstairs, could go and watch the national championship with my friends. I'm on my phone. I have a John Rothstein up on my Twitter notifications, and I just get a Ed Cooley, the American Dream tweet. And I go, the heck? What? And I immediately go to the score. 9-0 run, last 4:53.
I think this is round 2. I think Georgetown is at Providence this weekend.
Yeah, they were 7.5 point dog that game, too.
People say that college football is better when Notre Dame is back, and they say college basketball is better when Georgetown is back.
I'll tell you right now, Thomas Sorber is going to be a problem in the Big East. I mean,
for only a few more months.
Yeah, you think
he's a one-and-done guy?
You think he's one and done?
Yep.
Hey, here's another one-and-done football guy.
He's not going to be like Eric Dixon, Eric Dixon has been at Villanova, I think. I think Jay Wright was in his first year.
Yeah.
When Eric Dixon was playing for him.
Raleigh actually was recruiting him to begin.
Eric Dixon had 29 last night for Villanova.
Jeez.
Guy should have transferred. But I know he's loyal.
He was great in the Final Four against KU. 18.
That's a bad loss from Villanova.
Terrible loss.
Speaking of basketball. Okay, so that game is at 8 tonight. 6.5 point underdog.
Happer on the call.
DePaul Blue Demons. Really?
Yeah.
Where's Bishop?
Apparently he's broken.
Connor Happer's on the call tonight.
Well, where's Bishop? He's usually is the voice of Creighton basketball.
I believe he's just got his voice has been through the ringer, and I don't
to.
want
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
In the game at UConn?
Yeah.
Oh,
there must have been some bad.
He hasn't been on the air either. It's been a fill-in for USC the last couple of days. So he's off, and Happer's in, and Happer actually sent me. He put a picture out on his Twitter where he was staying at, and I actually know that area. So I gave him a little spot. I don't know if he went to Paisanos last night, but I was like, oh, you're probably around that Paisanos I went to when I was 11 that one time.
You should go to Paisans here.
Might not be open.
No, I looked.
Somebody might have been
I
killed.
looked it up. I looked it up to be like, I looked up the Paisanos. I was like, oh, it is by the Wintrust Arena. There you go. Yeah, he's on the call. Bishop lost his voice. I think he'll be back today on USC.
Wow. The Athletic has put out their latest bracket. Would you like some entertainment?
Yeah. Entertainment.
So,
that's why I come here every day.
All 3 schools are in the Athletic bracket.
Can I guess where they're at?
You may.
Okay.
Let's first start with Nebraska.
They are in an 11 seed in Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
They are a 10 seed in Cleveland.
Ooh, okay.
Playing Baylor again.
Again?
Again.
Can't we come up with different opponents.
I was about to say
Tim Miles will get thrown out of that game.
That's the one thing about I liked about the Northwestern NCAA tournament runs that I followed. They've played
Baylor.
weird teams. They've played Vanderbilt, Boise State, FAU, UConn, UCLA, and Gonzaga. Those are like
experience.
They would never play any of those teams in the regular season. I'm pretty sure half of them were like the first time they played them in school history, and that school's been around since the creation of dirt. So like the
Great
whole
album, by the way.
repeat teams, it's just like a little flavor, a little something new.
Seamus McKnight would be in heaven. Get to go back home.
Yeah, sure.
So in Cleveland.
Shame-o.
All right, where do you think Creighton is?
We'll say 8 seed in Milwaukee.
Jimmy?
I'm going to go right now 10 seed with a bullet.
11 seed.
Okay.
Really?
Are they going to Dayton?
Playing in Dayton.
Really?
Against New Mexico. Now,
I knew that was a bit of a stretch because my Ryan Hammer, who's my favorite college basketball personality, he had them as a 9 seed yesterday.
They'll get there.
He had a West
winning
Virginia
some
and
games.
DeVries as a 5 seed.
I believe it.
11 in Dayton.
Where do you think the Omaha Mavericks, who have we got 3 straight nights of basketball. We got Creighton tonight. We got Nebraska USC at 8:00 tomorrow night.
I'm not going to go to that. I mean, why do they keep doing these 8:00 tips in the middle of the week?
I'm not the only one.
No. I'm going to watch it.
I'll be there.
Well, yeah, I'm going to watch it too, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to complain about the start time.
I'll be there. That'll be another. I'll be getting back home about 12:15, 12:30.
I know.
Just because I know who I'm going with. They'll be like,
Matt's making the coffee for you.
Haven't seen you in a while. Haven't seen the inside of Longwells or Gate 25.
I was about to say, I didn't want to give up. Hey, this new place called Tanks. You want to hop in there? Yeah, thanks very much for that. Omaha, I bet. Okay, I'll go.
And then Omaha plays on Thursday night in the biggest game of the week against St. Thomas.
I'll be there.
Two top teams in the Summer League. I'll be there.
I'll say Omaha 16 seed in Dayton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Athletic has both Creighton and Omaha playing in Dayton.
I will be there.
It sounds like the zone will be
there.
there.
If that were to happen, I would go out there. I'd even do some work. I mean, so I have family in Dayton. My mother went to Dayton. My brother went to Dayton. His wife went to Dayton. My sister might be going to Dayton. I have a lot of Dayton ties. If
he
that
thinks
happens,
we're going to send him,
honestly, I know it's not base case scenario in terms of like competition and tournament wise, but for Matt McMaster, I'm kind of rooting for that because I would totally go out there and do that.
Omaha
Start saving your money
as a 16 seed against Morehead State. So the Athletic today loves themselves
some Morehead,
Nebraska nice state, the good life.
Yeah, I mean all three are in. It's
surprising they have Creighton as an 11.
Yeah,
They'll change.
No, that's not right.
You don't think so? You don't think that'll stay the same?
They'll come up a couple
between now and
keep playing
8
better.
Weeks from now.
Yeah, come up
Based
to
on where we're
9.
going. I mean USC
8, 9.
We called Rutgers. I called Rutgers a must-win game. This is without a doubt. I mean, some people push back on that. They're like, January 15th. But you're looking at the landscape, looking at the schedule, the fact that they can't win on the road. Like, okay, this one is no one can disagree. This is a must-win game. You cannot drop this game to USC.
Harold Miner was USC, right? The
yes,
story you
he
tell
was.
about where Denny was not happy with the PA guy.
Yeah. So Harold Miner set the single game scoring record inside of the Devaney Center. Steve Johnson was the PA guy, and he recognized that once Harold Miner hit the shot, he mentioned that he has set the all-time Devaney Sports Center record for points. And Danny Nee lost his mind. He wanted Steve Johnson, who was probably more well-known for being the longtime PA voice of Nebraska volleyball and being involved with the Coaches Association for high school in Nebraska. He wanted Steve Johnson fired on the spot.
Wow.
Like Danny in the middle of the game went at Steve Johnson. Yeah. Baby Jordan, Harold Miner put on a show that night.
Can you imagine if
it.
Matt Rule ran up to the press box and started yelling at Nate Rohr?
They have a yell off? I got
I got an issue with you.
I hope you didn't just tune in to 1620 the song. You're listening to Carrie and Matt.
And Nate.
First down!
Why doesn't he do that when he's doing Nebraska softball? Because like Jordy Ball. So it's part of her deal.
It's strike 2.
Part of Jordy Ball's deal coming back to Nebraska is that she'd also be able to hit. So when she hits a home run, does Nate go, Jordy? At 3:00 today, there will be yes.
Oh, sorry, my bad. You were segueing.
I had Flaky Jake is waiting for you to say some nonsense.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say when Stranglehold would come on, I would start saying I would pretend I'm the United Center PA announcer, and I would announce it to myself and pretend I was skating around on the ice. It was sick. Same thing with Sirius.
Yeah,
we've all been there. It's a classic thing.
Shout out Ray Clay
today.
Cooperstown. The newest inductees into the Baseball Hall of Fame will be announced. Could Ichiro, who if Ichiro wanted to, could have hit 35 home runs in a season, will he be unanimous?
No, because they always get stuffy
there will
about
be,
something. There's
some old hag out there that's going to be weird about the fact that he didn't start playing in the MLB until he was 28, and that maybe he didn't play a style of ball. I don't know. There's going to be some stupid excuse.
They blew it no one to the Yankees.
So here's
old idiot is going to make some dumb decision.
Hey, Ichiro. I mean, that's going to be a fun weekend in Cooperstown. So here's my prediction on who's going in today. Ichiro's going in. CC Sabathia is going in. People forget that he struck out over 3,000 in his career.
He's one of the most underrated pitchers. I think that Jeter being a Yankee definitely helped him. Yeah. I feel like it was the opposite for CC. I feel like CC, because he was Yankee, maybe people gave him a little bit too much
Maybe
flack.
Because he was then an Indian and a Brewer?
Well, before that, yeah. I know that CC was an Indian.
Billy Wagner will be in.
Loved me some Billy.
I wonder if Jones and Beltran.
Carlos Beltran will be close.
Former Astros.
I don't think Andrew Jones is going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Really?
No, because he faded at the end of his career, and he has domestic violence on his record.
Yeah.
So But you know how people vote.
I know.
The end of the problem, and I love Andrew Jones.
He's good. Astro killer.
Unfortunately, at the end of his career, I think he really faded.
Yeah.
But Carlos Beltran will be the interesting one today, how close he is, because I think ridiculous this is. People still hold the Houston Astros stuff against him.
Yeah.
But he didn't play for those Astros.
But Ichiro, CC, and Billy Wagner, I believe, will be in today.
It'll be interesting.
And then they will be with Cobra, who Dave Parker, the late Dave Parker, is already going in.
I wonder if Rollins, Utley, and Burley get to stay on the ballot.
Yeah.
I wonder if they get a second year. I wonder if they'll get enough support. I still think it's an absolute shame that Paul Konerko got 1 year. He got 1 year on the ballot, and then they're done. I mean, I don't know. I love the Baseball Hall of Fame. I like how selective it is, but sometimes it's a little bit too cutthroat. We can have some nice little discussions before we're all right, he's for sure off. Wonder what happens to Burley though. Be a weird one. Mark's a weird one where Mark was he was really good. He wasn't really wasn't great, but he did it for a while. He was there for a while. The problem
is, Paul Konerko is in the Hall of Very Good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I'm not saying Paul Konerko is not a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying that the fact that he was only on the ballot once, that it was just a one-time, and then you're gone, that was a little bit much. I mean, I wonder, though, if I think Konerko got... I don't know how much Konerko got the first time go around. I know it wasn't 0, but...
Well, to be knocked off, what do you got to get? Less than 5%?
Yeah. I can look that up. I wonder if Burley, though, if he gets how much he gets of that vote. He's an interesting baseline of clearly not in the Hall of Fame, Hall of Very Good, but it's how much leeway does a guy like that get? I love the Baseball Hall of Fame.
When we come back, I said that all you people that asked Ryan Day get fired, you got vindicated last night. No receipts, vindication. We'll get into that. Brian Christopherson coming up at 9. Andy Kendi as well on 1620 The Zone.
Join the Connor Hamper Show. That's the show that follows us. An unsportsmanlike conduct on the road for the annual Pink Out broadcast. You know it, and it's something we all love. It's live from the American Cancer Society Hope Lodge this Friday, January 24th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Stop by and donate for the paper supply drive to help raise awareness and support for the Hope Lodge Omaha.
Thanks, Jimmy. Last night, if you were on YouTube TV, you could have gotten ESPN 4K with no commercials.
It
was peaceful.
On ESPN 2, or was that on the Simon?
If you were on YouTube TV, it gave you an option to watch ESPN 4K, so there were no commercials.
Wow.
And you stared at the field.
Nice.
When there was a stoppage in play, it was very peaceful. There was silence.
I was sitting next to a buddy of mine, and we were watching the game. And after that 18-play drive to open the game was football heaven. It was beautiful. It was smash mouth, out route, slant, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, up the middle, in your face. Oh, beautiful. But we go 10 minutes of a drive nonstop, and we hit the commercials, and my buddy goes, all right, they're going to make us pay here. Mm-hmm. He goes, take a break. He goes, you need to go to the bathroom, need to get another drink, whatever you need to do it now. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
It was a long break.
You could see that coming.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, commercials are momentum killers.
Oh, big time.
Look at the no, I won't say that. There's another part of the broadcast last night. And it's a great thing about this sport is we discuss everything about college football.
Everything.
I also think last night was the last time that we'll see Lee Corso.
Yeah.
So Lee Corso had an incident last night on air. He was trying to make a point. I don't know if you guys watched the beginning of game day.
I missed it. I wanted to see his last mascot pick.
I'm going to be honest with you, not a pregame show guy for most sports. I just put on basketball during that time before the game started.
But game day kicked off like at 4:00 yesterday, so it was early on. And their first segment, they have everybody on the set, and Corso starts to make a point, and he has a little incident, and it was really, really rough.
Yeah,
like Herb Street is perfect for him because Herbie will step in and he'll stop the conversation and he'll lead him to something, but they were all kind of in shock. And so I think last night was the last time that we'll see Lee Corso on set, which, will close the book on a legendary run as one of the OGs of game day. There was also another thing. Did you stick around to watch SVP?
I did not, no.
Okay, so, Van Pelt is in Atlanta, which crazy thing about Atlanta, think about this.
It's where the players play.
I love that stadium. I think it's a great place to watch a game for football. It's a great place not to spend a lot of money if you like concessions. But Texas could have played 3 of their last 5 games in Atlanta this year. Think about that.
That's crazy. That's a great
SEC,
I didn't think of that.
Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
National championship.
Yeah.
Some people think that the Atlanta site is overplayed.
I totally agree.
But it is. They love college football in Atlanta. It's easy to get in and out of. You think about the South.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people there. It's a great stadium.
It's a hub. There's an airport there that goes just about anywhere.
So they brought Van Pelt down, so he's on the field doing Sports Center. So after the game, they go back up to the booth with Herb Street and Fowler.
Okay.
Fowler doesn't have his dog, or Herb Street doesn't have his dog. I don't know.
Fowler should have a cat.
I love dogs, and I understand
it's a little much.
Herb Street's connection to his dog. But when they're doing a pregame hit in the middle of the field with him and Fowler, and he's got a hold of Pete, his dog.
Yeah.
How does he not poop on that field? Because mine would be like, ooh, grass.
I don't know. He does. I see on the side he has like a handler. But it's great for Herb Street. And he explained the story after he lost his first dog, how much it means him being on the road. Herb Street broke down in his interview with SVP last night, and he started crying, talking about this Ohio State team. He got super emotional.
How did I not
he got super emotional about
why?
About Ohio State and Ryan Day. Like he started crying, and then he had to excuse himself, and Fowler took over while they were talking to SVP.
Man, he hadn't cried like that since Alabama was eliminated.
That was a good one, Jimmy.
I know.
Was that Oh my God, I see the picture now where he had to turn away and put a tissue in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start with me, Herb Street said. I'm a little emotional. I'm just fired up for these guys. When I call these games, I'm incredibly objective. I love all these Ohio State teams, but this team, because of what they went through to get to this point, you're just happy.
I didn't
was
cry.
he trying? I don't know. Is that legit, or is he trying to recurry favor?
No. So, I mean,
he's a guy who's cried before. He is an emotional guy.
He's been through it.
This isn't the first time.
On game day when he lost his first dog was
yes.
By the way, also game day, the Jack Sawyer and then the Jack B. Sawyer. I mean, it got misty. I thought I had allergies in January. But, Herb Street's been through it with Ohio State fans. His son's going to Michigan.
Yeah.
He moved out of Columbus and moved to Nashville because of all the pushback. It started with the Maurice Clarett stuff of his opinion on that, and then how he tries to play straight down the road when he's talking about Ohio State, and people get upset, and they made it uncomfortable on him and his wife is a former gymnast at Ohio State. And I've told the story that him and I were scheduled to be partners in the afternoons on the Fan in Columbus, and then some things didn't occur, but we did shows together. And so he told me off air, like, the stuff that goes on. And he said, it's wild. So I don't know. Last night was just kind of, him and Ryan Day must have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
Where Day has shared some things. And also the other thing about this Ohio State team, and I'm not pointing this out to make fun of it. I didn't know this. Does it appear to you guys, and we'll probably hear more about all the back stuff of the Michigan loss and Ryan Day and his family getting security. They are very much a faith team. Like, they talked a lot about God and faith.
No. So I watched that post game. I watched that just the quick interviews, hits afterwards. Yeah. There was a lot. Everybody, it was all God. It was a big night for God yesterday. I mean, it was a big one. A lot of
Notre Dame lost.
A lot of shout outs.
I didn't realize that. I think that's fantastic.
I think it's great,
but
too.
I didn't.
Absolutely.
I had not. It was more than usual. Like, Will Howard. No. Will Howard was interviewed, but it was like player after player. So this has to be one of the wildest backstories on this season for Ohio State. The expectations, the loss to Michigan, and everything. But one of the storylines. And so that's why I think Herb Street and Day have shared a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like talking through this.
Sure.
Is I believe that everybody that was clamoring for Ryan Day to be fired after Michigan, you got vindicated last night. You know why? Because you hold that program to a higher standard and you know what that program is capable of. Now, you might have been bat blank crazy to say, 69 or
Six. It was 66 and 9.
So he's 70-10 now. That's crazy talk.
Crazy.
But you are vindicated this morning because you're clamoring for that program to live up to what it should be. You were vindicated, validated, whatever, because you saw what that program should be. So I don't say, you know what, Ryan Day should start looking around. Like when they were up 31-7, he was looking to see where Holtz was. He was like, where is Holtz?
Yeah.
Where is Lou Holtz at? People are saying, Ryan Day, why don't you go looking for those? I hope you have the receipts. I hope you share them. I hope the people that said Ryan Day should be fired, you were right. You were right because you hold that program to a high standard, and that program is exactly what they were last night. And they shouldn't be having games where they lose as a
favorite.
How much?
20.5 points.
To Michigan.
20.5 at home. Lost 13-10. Mm-hmm. That cannot happen. I'll say this, man. Like, I'm sure Ryan Day had a lot of emotional discussions with a lot of people sitting there being like, and this is the worst feeling, at least that I've had in my life. The worst feeling is when you sit down and you say, what else can I do? When you're almost like, what else can I do at this point? Like, you're almost hopeless. You're like, I've done so much. I've put in so much work. I've had what I believe is success. What else can I do? How can you not have that thought when you're 66-10? When, everyone is saying, and I'm sure for him, he understands his situation. He knows that he inherited a really good situation that Urban Meyer left him. But at the same time, he's sitting there being like, guys, we're winning every year. We are competing year in and year out for national champions. Nothing has fallen off. Ohio State constantly under me is in the picture, and we're way past. There are no more Urban Meyer guys on that team anymore. The guys on that team have been recruited.
You gotta be careful. You get a lot of eligibility in college.
There are more. I don't know. There could be one or two, and some people can be like, actually, this guy was under Urban Meyer when he was 18. So maybe there's one or two guys left, but the majority of the team.
I don't think there's anybody.
You never know. That guy in Miami. I mean, he was still playing when Urban Meyer was the coach. Regardless, he's sitting there. He's thinking, what else more can I do? And the answer is win a national championship. Win an Natty. That's what more you can do. And you know what? Him and his team, they did it. And I'm going to tell you something right now, man. They played for him. You saw the way Jack Sawyer hugged him and talked to him and embraced him. You saw the way Will Howard embraced him. I mean, that is a team that loved their head coach. And in the eye of the storm, under all the heat, under all the hate, under all the doubt, under people being like, Tennessee is going to come into the horseshoe or come into the shoe and they're going to take over the stadium. And you could hear some boos by the end of the second quarter for Ohio State. It could get rough. It could get ugly when Tennessee comes and plays Ohio State. What do? They stepped up and said, no. This is who we are. We are this team. And you know what? There are some Michigan fans who are like, thank you, or you're welcome. You're welcome. You needed that. You needed us to win. And there are some Ohio State fans that are saying, you know what? Screw you. We're natty champs. What are you going to do about it?
But I'm glad that the crazy fan base that can be Ohio State sometimes, and they're going to be obnoxious. You're going to have to, you're going to be on the beach this summer, and there's going to be an Ohio State fan there, and they're going to be right in your face, and you're going to have to ward them off.
It's good fun.
They hold their program to a high standard.
Yes.
They have expectations.
Absolutely.
You know what? They're lucky enough that they're 153-19 in their last 172 games. And they're one of the rare programs that have remained at an elite level. But their fan base holds their program to certain standards. And you know what? That's why you go to Ohio State. That's why you coach at Ohio State. You want a place that has standards and has expectations and has passion from fans, even if they're crazy or not, and also has resources and they're willing to spend. And they're willing to play big boy football every single day of the year. I'd be attracted to that. That's why fan bases, like if you're looking at like Oregon and Texas and Ohio State, which whatever you want to believe out there is the three highest spending teams in college football this year on a roster. The ones that aren't, you're like, why are we not doing this?
Yeah.
Look, it's the discussion that's going on right now on my timeline about Nebraska. Could Nebraska spend 20 minutes? I asked Sam this question. Is this fan base, which has taken so many gut punches, is loyal to a fault sometimes, but they're there for the program, do they understand the commitment it takes to play at that level? Not just putting your butt in a seat, but there's the financial part.
Yeah.
There's being comfortable with buying a roster. Guys are here today, gone tomorrow. And is your fan base committed? Is your fan base ready to make that commitment? And it's not just 1 year. Because once you get there, you can't go back.
No.
Look what they're going to do at Indiana. All of a sudden, there's expectations for Indiana football. All of these way too early preseason top 25s I'm seeing this morning, Indiana's in the top 15.
Hey, well, I just saw this quote from Ryan Day. It goes exactly to your point. He was asked if the pressure of next season will be different. He goes, yeah, try losing the first game and see how that goes at Ohio State.
Losing to Arch Manning at home.
At home. I mean, seriously, that's how it is. And it's just like, what it boils down to, though, and this is what I still kind of like this aspect about college football, because in baseball, you very much can just go out and get Sasaki, and you can just go out and get Ohtani and Tanner Scott and Mookie and pay all these guys and put and put them on the field. You still got to play football, and you still got to develop talent. You still have to have good coaches. And like, I will just always reiterate this point to the people who are like, why isn't Nebraska spending $20 million on a team? They don't have the team to spend $20 million on. You need to develop guys and get them to the point where they are worth paying them 6 figures, 7 figures to keep them on a team in order to win a national championship. So it starts there. It starts with talent acquisition and talent development. And then if Nebraska does recruit high school talent and develop them to a high level, and then they don't want to pay them. They refuse to pay these guys to keep them on the roster. Then you can start asking, why aren't they spending $20 million?
There's a lot in there. There's a lot, but there's also the NFL perspective, because just like I don't fault the Dodgers.
No, I don't.
People want to go and play for winners. They are attracted to a brand. People want to go play for the big boys, the elite of college football, because of the brand, because of the money, and also the three letters that get mentioned over and over in Lincoln: NFL. NFL. There's 14 guys that were wearing Buckeye gear last night. They're going to go to the NFL. I mean, and there's going to be plenty more that are going to emerge over the next couple of years that are not eligible. You don't think you're a high school kid and you're like, I want to go to the NFL. I'm a wide receiver. Where am I going to go? Oh, you remember they told you you're supposed to go to the South? I'm going to Columbus, Ohio, where it gets cold to play wide receiver. I mean, it's there. I give a lot of credit to Ohio State because they have been able to stay at that level without titles. You win one and you make a major coaching change, you disappear. What do? They just stay near the top. Now they got a title under Ryan Day. All right, 39 past the hour. Brian Christopherson will join us at the top of the hour with a thought or two on a lot of things. Now that the college football season is over, we'll break down Cincinnati, what John Butler will scheme up against Sorsby, quarterback for Cincinnati.
Never too early.
Never. You must break it down.
Only 219 days.
You might not be able to know who the starting 11 are on defense, but you know what? They're going to put 11 out there. And Matt Rule always has a good defense. How will they do against Sorsby?
Typically.
All right. We're back with more Gary and Matt. 1620 The Zone.
Hey, make your day a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter by joining the VIP club and sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, like who's hosting shows, including sports news, contests, promotions, and more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com.
All right, good Tuesday, everybody. It's cold outside, which, usually you don't start to see the Masters promos until like the 1st of February.
No. They were doing it a couple weeks ago.
Well, I think it's because it's cold. Like the cold snap across the country in places that doesn't normally get cold.
Blizzard warning in Louisiana right now.
Georgia.
That's why they built the Superdome.
So they start airing that. Warms your cockles.
Oh my God. I tweeted out literally 3 weeks ago. I was in the kitchen and it was like a Pavlov's dog, like type bell. Like I hear Georgia and I go,
like the drafting.
Oh my God. I go, oh my God. And I ran. Not a joke. I like slid on my socks, like to the TV. And I was like, oh my God, it's there. It's so beautiful. It's so glorious. There's nothing better than Augusta. There's nothing better than Augusta. I will never forget my 21st birthday weekend, just getting hammered
as many
all Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then also like my breaks were just sitting down and turning on Amen Corner and just watching the boys go through. Ugh. Nothing will ever beat that. Nothing will ever beat Connor Clark and I.
On mine.
Nothing will ever beat Connor Clark, the voice of the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, and I sitting on a couch with sprites to our left and our right, just watching the Masters together. Right. And then on the other TV, it was the Cubs game. Oh.
Need a moment?
Yeah.
I do. I'm going to cry. I'm going to Herb Street.
I had a basketball coach once tell me that if you're having a good basketball season or not, because when they start airing the Masters commercials on ESPN, you either start going, well, the season is almost over, or you're like, man, I can't wait for the middle of April to watch. You'd be like, that's how he judges the season. First time he sees a Masters commercial, does he go, oh, thank God the season is almost over? Or he's like, man, I can't wait till middle of April to be watching the Masters.
Yeah.
But I just noticed that they're getting a lot more run on ESPN as it gets colder outside.
You think it's
tricky marketing people?
They're trying to combat the cold front, not with a warm front, with Masters commercials. That's how we'll do it, John.
Mike asked a question on the stream. This is a good question about how Ohio State has constructed the roster. Now, stars still matter to be elite. I think they spent more money on retaining guys that could be in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's how it should be. The bigger story is if Ohio State didn't spend money and all of a sudden people heard that, they only spent $5 million. They are frugal. They're eating the dogs and cats, and they're eating up all of the good college football players. But Mike asked a question here about constructing a roster.
That was a good one.
How do you? Oh, geez, now it's just I lost it here. Okay. How do you buy and develop at the same time?
It's a great question. Do you want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So how do you buy and develop at the same time? Well, essentially, you buy first off to get a high school guy. So you got to buy the high school guy. Okay, probably at a lower price. Then he comes into your program. You develop him. Right? He gets better. Right? I don't want to hear about you don't develop talent. No. Talent is out of the womb, but then you get better. You utilize that talent. You have that talent go into areas into part of football that are important, and then you also develop the mind, develop the IQ. So you develop that talent to the point where they are an NFL caliber player. And then you buy them again, essentially. There's a second buy. You buy them back so they don't go to the NFL. So you buy talent, you develop talent, then you buy it back to keep it around. That's how this process goes. That's how they've done it. They did it with JT. They did it with Sawyer. They did it with Tyleek. They did it with Cody Simon, who's been there for 5 years. Who's their leading tackler?
A long time.
Who's their leading tackler yesterday?
Did you ever get drafted?
He's a good player, probably will. But he was one of those guys who got paid a lot of money to stick around because they believed that they could have a great season. Now they've bought talent, developed talent, and they bought it back, right? To have it for another year. But then they've also just go, oh, look at Caleb Downs. That guy's pretty damn good. All right, come here, Caleb. We'll buy you. Oh, look Quinshon Junkins.
What do you think Jeremiah Smith is getting paid? 3, 4?
No, I don't think, because I wonder what his price, because you got to understand he's coming out of high school. He should be getting 3 or 4 now.
But you just said you got to pay for high school kids.
Yeah. No, I don't know if he was getting 7 figures out of high school.
Not every college coach is comfortable with that.
Sure.
Of paying for promise.
I bet he gets $1 million. I bet he got $1 million straight up to come out. But I guarantee you 3 or 4 is going to be the more aggregate number. For sure.
There was ever transparency with NIL and rosters.
Oh, my
now,
Lord.
when the salary cap comes in, you'll have a better feeling.
Yeah.
But not everybody will touch the cap. How would we be able to consume the information if we knew what guys were making?
Do you ever see that?
I think it would be ugly.
AJ McCarron video. Have you seen this? He was on a coach. There's a SEC podcast with 2 former coaches. I don't want to say. I think it's Coach Siski. Coach Siski. He was on his pod. He's like a reoccurring guest, kind of like an AJ Hawk on Pat McAfee thing, and they were talking about quarterbacks, NIL quarterbacks, and one of the main hosts goes, the lowest amount I've heard for a transfer portal quarterback is $1.3 million, and AJ McCarron goes, is that Jackson Arnold? And the podcaster, I think it was Coach Siski, goes, no, he made more, and you could see McCarron like vomit, like, oh my god, like.
Well, isn't
it had a visceral reaction to the fact that Jackson Arnold was making more than $1 million?
Isn't the Tulane quarterback? There was reports that he got 4? I mean, we know what Bryce Underwood allegedly.
Arnold is apparently getting 2.5, and that's a guy who did not. I mean, had to leave Oklahoma. Like if Oklahoma wanted him to be there, he would still be there, and they moved on.
How do you think, based on the performance of his past year, we knew how much Dylan Raiola made at Nebraska? What the reaction would be, good or bad? I know he doesn't make as much as I think people think he does.
Sure.
I mean, he makes money, but not. I've seen some numbers thrown around that are ridiculous.
I think there would be a positive and a negative. I think the positive would be like, look, this is like the era that we're in, and that move to go and get a future what we think top end NFL prospect. There would also be the negative of like, oh my God, that is so much money for someone that young. And that's going to be the reaction for everyone in college football forever. That will always you will always have those people who just facepalm immediately when they find out how many millions of dollars 18, 19, 20-year-olds are making for playing college sports.
I think it would be ugly, and I'm glad that we don't, because what if you found out that a backup defensive player who hasn't played a lot at Nebraska makes 6 figures?
Yeah. I mean, it gets ugly in professional sports. Whenever you pay a guy a lot of money and they don't end up performing, it gets ugly quickly. Guys get run out of town. Guys get emotionally damaged. And these are dudes who are 28, 29, 32, 35, 36 years old, who Chris Davis of the Baltimore Orioles almost quit baseball because he was playing so bad and getting so much hate for how much money he was making. And it was a very difficult time in his life. And can you imagine subjecting a 18-year-old to that? Like I said, with Bryce Underwood, it's going to happen. I've told you it's a lose-lose situation because
it messes up your locker room. Because the guys that are in it know how much you get paid. Like there were guys that knew how much Casey Thompson was getting paid, like to the exact cent.
Wow.
When he was here as quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they know in the locker room. That's another element of controlling your locker room. But I think it would be ugly in today's college world with the passionate college fan bases. If you knew how much a player was getting paid and he was underperforming, you already think it's bad, like with gamblers and stuff.
Sure.
Think about it, what it'd be like for NIL. All right, quick break. We'll come back, put a wrap on this hour. Brian Christopherson's right around the corner to talk about Nebraska, who the preseason odds, they are tied for the 19th best odds. You know what they say if you're tied for 19?
To win the national championship?
Yep, 100-1. So Nebraska has a 1% chance in 2025 to have a parade.
Yeah.
From the Lincoln Airport back to the Devaney Center. It'll be old school, starter jackets, Apex, bike shorts. Coach Osborne.
I know. There's
maybe some fanny packs.
Yes. 100-1 is crazy.
Sony Walkmans.
Put some money on it.
Way higher than that.
Take us back.
We're back with more after this. All right, you might not be happy that it's cold outside, but if you are a big fan of Runza, we are all winning. I think this is 2 straight Tuesdays on Temperature Tuesday that the 6 a.m. temp has been 0 or worse.
So it's be -7.
Let's go, baby.
Say it ain't so.
Let's welcome in Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Now that the college football season is over, BC's about to go on a 7-month vacation.
Heck yeah, dude.
So we get him for the last time. Good morning.
Good morning. Do you think that's part of the portal recruitment of guys is the Temperature Tuesday deal? Do they throw that into the mix?
It could be. Do you remember when NIL started and like the first couple of deals were players doing like telling people to go to the Runza app?
Oh.
They were getting like $50 to do like a social media post to go to the Runza app and get like a, buy one, get one Runza.
Yes, I do remember that. And I don't blame the kid. I mean, I would do it too for $50, or I'd do it for like a free combo meal. If they're like, we'll give you like a free combo meal once a month, I would be up for that.
You think Amigos is like, look, Jeff Sims isn't here anymore. We need a new combo guy. we need someone else to sell our crispy burrito to.
Though, I respect. I know Matt Rule did too. Obviously Jeff Sims was an example where it went sideways pretty quickly into that season, but there were advertised, firms or companies that stuck with him.
Yeah.
And I give credit to that. That's loyalty there.
So last night, and Ohio State is the champion. Back-to-back years, the Big Ten has won the national championship. Back-to-back years, Nebraska has played the national champion in the regular season. It can be a copycat sport on the field and off the field. What do you think of Ohio State's run to win this national championship in the new era of college football that other schools today and moving forward will try and replicate, either on or off the field?
Well, you got to be willing to throw some dollars around. I mean, that's just part of it. Ohio State's roster all of last offseason was talked about in that regard, how much they were willing to give up. But you know what? They also had development of guys within their program that were in their third or fourth year, veterans who in some key spots stuck around, and they got their best football. You've got to be willing to throw elbows in the NIL game and, be willing to pay some. And you've also got to be, that whole development thing doesn't just go out the window. You still got to, especially in the trenches, we talk about this all the time. You've got to have those guys in their third and fourth year start to rise up. And I mean, give them credit just within the lines. When they played Nebraska in the middle of the season, Nebraska owned their offensive line that day. I mean, that was a sort of a beatdown in the trenches. And, at that point, if you had asked just a Husker fan, what do you think of Ohio State's championship chances? They would have said no way. Mm-hmm. And they kept getting better. And I know they had the tough one at Michigan, but, there is a part you can really respect beyond they paid their guys a lot of money and all this stuff. They can get whoever they want. They're Ohio State. They also just had a good team mentality and bought into something together. And it turned out that loss to Michigan, I think, was a real uniting factor for them. We're not going out like this. We have too many, top end players to have that be the legacy of this season. And props to them for getting it together and, putting on everybody here in the playoffs.
Brian, last 2 years, three of the four teams who've been in the national championship game are currently in the Big Ten. Do you think the Big Ten going back to back with Michigan and Ohio State as the national champs, does that affect the outlook of the conference to the point where it benefits teams within that conference to get some leeway when it comes to final college football playoff rankings?
I think it's a great question and point, because you guys will remember when Matt Rule said Big Ten should get 4 in back at media days. He took some flack, of course, from Feinbaum and in that part of the country. And, it ended up playing out that they got 4 in, and there was a lot of arrows shot at the league the first week in Indiana, sort of, losing to Notre Dame brought some of that out of people just because Indiana is not a known name. But I think as the playoffs work their way to the finish, absolutely, I believe it helps going forward, as far as getting 4 teams in. And, it's the SEC that got dinged here this bowl cycle, playoff cycle. And not that that's going to keep them from getting 4 in the future either, but I think it definitely is going to aid the Big Ten. There's no question about it.
Hey, 6 weeks from today, Ohio State begins spring practice. Okay, they just went through a gauntlet of a season where they played a lot of football, more football than they've ever played. We're kind of jonesing for spring football around here to see the new guys and to see how this is all going to work. It's kind of the appetizer. But as the calendar changes, the NFL wants to add a week. College football might start earlier. What do you think moving forward with a 105-man roster, which is not fully at 105 on April 1st, what do you think, BC, spring football and college football looks like moving forward?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I haven't thought about how much it's going to shift. Maybe you have some ideas in asking that. I still think you've got to really see what you have with certain guys, and obviously there is that portal window for guys to still make decisions afterwards. So I think it's got to be a really competitive cycle where you're hitting and you're seeing how physical certain guys are at spots and really testing their mentality and how much they love this game. I think in some ways, I would argue you actually ramp it up and see who's got the goods, but that is going to be a balance that coaches have to weigh now with some rosters that have dwindled, in Nebraska's case quite considerably. So we'll see, especially though that you mentioned the teams that just finished up. And I was thinking of like Ohio State, it feels like it's always reloading, and Penn State does a pretty good job of it. But I wonder like how Penn State comes out of like going so long into January where you're maybe not able to have your attention as much on some of the portal happenings. And I'm curious, like with Arizona State, like how did they manage their roster as they were playing in the playoffs, and like what does that look like for the next year? So I guess the thing I've wondered the most about is, are there going to be some teams that aren't like the usual powers, like Arizona State and Indiana, for example? If they go into the playoffs and get into it a week or two, how does that affect them the next season? Are they able to even come close to what they did?
Sure.
Not just because of the wear and tear, but because of like your roster management and those critical months. So I'll admit I haven't thought as much about the spring question you asked, but that's what I wonder about, is some of those teams that aren't Ohio State that pop in at like the 9 or 10 seed, and we thought were kind of unusual to be in the playoffs. What are they going to look like the next year after trying to balance all of this at the same time? That'll be interesting to me.
Well, that's funny because I'm going to ask you this, Brian. Like, I'm looking at these two teams, and I know that Bill Belichick got a lot of flack a couple of it had to be 6-7 years ago when he won a Super Bowl and goes, "Well, look, we're 5 weeks behind now. The rest of the league." You're looking at Notre Dame and Ohio State. You can make the same exact argument. Even honestly, you could make more of an argument that they're behind because they might have guys leave, and those guys who want to leave, they might have to now wait and not be in school semester because of enrollment, and then they're going to have to fill those holes within the spring recruiting window, which isn't as big as the winter recruiting window. Like, it is. On the scale of problems that college football has now, where would you rank teams kind of recovering and trying to manage their rosters after going so far into the playoffs?
I do think it's going to be tricky for them, and that's a great point with like bringing up the Belichick quote.
Yeah.
Because people would scoff at that, but I bet you coaches everywhere would nod their heads to it, because I mean, even the glory years of Husker football, I remember that win a championship, and you'd hear of coaches like, I got to go on the road and recruit, the next day or whatever. Like, I think there was the old story of Nebraska got beat by Georgia Tech in the Citrus Bowl pretty bad. When Osborne was kind of taking it on the chin, and he was like, in the living room pretty soon after trying to recruit Tommy Frazier. There's stuff like that where it just never stops. And so I have no doubt in my mind that Ryan Day at some point, like for a couple hours today at least, maybe he enjoys it till noon or something, but there's some thoughts about, okay, like where it's like Friday Night Lights when Billy Bob's taking the names down, except it's more confusing now. The pieces are just more scattered than ever. So I do think that is going to be difficult for teams that play so long into the year. And of course, I mean, Nebraska's getting after it now as you get into winter conditioning and spring football. Like, I wonder like what Ohio State's plan is. Sure. Like when are they back at it? Like, is that 2 weeks from now? Or so they do have a delay in their start, and that's going to be really interesting how it plays out. I do not think they're going to change the calendar for that, though. I don't think they're going to care. I think that's my guess. I just think they're going to the TV and everything. They're going to say this worked out fine for us.
Everybody now is this morning releasing way too early top 25 polls, including 24/7. And there are some new teams that are at the top. Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon are in the top 5. So that's 2 SEC. That's 3 Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Then I look at this list, and you got 24 Illinois. You got 23 Indiana. There's Michigan at 16. And then at number 21 is Nebraska. They're showing up in more of these preseason top 25 polls, which we know don't mean anything, but they're good to keep the conversation going. What does that say about the perception of Nebraska that in your 24/7, they're 21, but off of a 7-6 season, they are showing up in CBS Sports on 3, mm-hmm. some of the ones that we are used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, I posted one today that was from 24/7 Sports. I guess it was a week ago, that had Nebraska 23rd, and now they're 21st in the 24/7 Sports. So it was a useful week of movement for the Huskers behind the scenes there. Our 24/7 Sports people must have really known something. The Marquise Groves Killebrew decommitment did not hurt them. I mean, I think you got the star power at QB. That's a big part of it. Yeah. I think when people sort of make these lists, they're like, okay, who has the names? It goes back to that old NBA on NBC, like promos, like Jordan and the Bulls versus Ewing and the Knicks. You got to like have that name. And so Nebraska's got Riola. I think though the Dana Holgerson factor is pretty interesting to people, outside our bubble, and he is just so respected as an offensive mind, and those who kind of paid attention to the Huskers that don't regularly follow them maybe notice like there was a little uptick in the offensive production, and they suspect Ryle is going to improve even in the year 2. And then I bet there is some who know of the Matt Rule year 3 and on record, and how he's won at least 10 games, at Temple and Baylor. And granted, those were different times in college football, as we've already discussed in this show, but I think that probably is a piece of it, that they say, if you look at his track record, he's won like 1 or 2 the first year, he's won 6 or 7 the second year, and then he wins double digits the third year. So they're one of those teams you want to slide into 21 to 25. And I think people want Nebraska to be back. I actually believe that. I know sometimes Husker fans don't think that, but I think there's certain programs that people have nostalgia for, that they miss being like in those type of games and rankings. And I think there's people that want that.
How much of this Nebraska football roster are you in the wait and see mode on in terms of production? And does that lower or do anything to your confidence in the amount of wins that they can get next season in Matt Rule's 3rd year?
Yeah, I want to stay pretty even on it. I mean, I'm excited about their additions at the skill spots, but I wonder about the defensive line and like how certain guys are going to come along. And I think that's the biggest thing of surviving in this league. You know, when the teams from the Pac-12 joined and we were at Big Ten Media Days with some of their writers in the summer, Brunson and I would tell those guys, like those USC writers, like you're going to find yourself in like a 17-13 game in Minneapolis, and you're going to be like, how are we here? Like, what has happened? Like, you're going to be in those kind of games in the Big Ten, and you've got to have the guys who, like, within your O-line and D-line can work into late October and early November, and you still have the depth. And so Ty Robinson is going to be a good draft pick, I think, and Nash obviously gave you a ton of snaps, and there's other guys who departed on that D line, and it's not like you can't replace guys. Yeah. Everybody's got to do it, but I do think that's a concern point until it's not. And there's going to have to be some young players that really step up, and Riley Van Poppel is going to have to be just really solid. And there's all sorts of names you could come along on the D line that are going to have to play well. Same on the O line.
Hey, we'll get you out on this, and this ties into last night's game and then ties back to Dylan Raiola, who I believe a lot of the reason why Nebraska will show up in a lot of preseason polls is because of number 15, and rightfully so. I mean, Nebraska has a quarterback returning. But Riley Leonard, quarterback power last night. My heart did a pitter-patter because I love quarterback power, and we have not seen it on a regular basis here. I thought they could have run Adrian Martinez more with just straight quarterback power or a lead play. But that was a staple of Notre Dame with Riley Leonard. And so running the football from the quarterback before Ohio State adjusted was an advantage. That'll be one of the things of many that we're like, okay, can he do this in year two? Do you envision Nebraska with Dylan having any quarterback power type run game in year number 2 for a guy that his longest run last year, ironically, against Ohio State for 38 yards?
Mm-hmm. I could see it here and there. I have trouble seeing it being a staple, but I do think he has to have that threat to his game a little bit more this year than last. As far as and some of that's just in the passing game when things break down and just like I'm taking off here and I'm confident in doing so. And obviously some awareness about where the sticks are. You got to grow in that. There was a couple really costly ones where he was a yard short and all that stuff. So I just think there's certain like specifics of the QB run game which he needs to iron out and want to be a part of his game. I think you see it all over the NFL too in the playoffs. There's moments where it makes such a difference to have a guy with some mobility who just the play is not like it was drawn up on the grease board. It's messed up, and the guy just goes and gets you 10 yards when you needed 8, and you continue on with the drive. So that's so big. I know around here though we've talked ourselves in circles about the QB run game. There's been times where we said, "Oh, that's awesome," that when they have it, and then we're saying, "No, you got to feed the running backs, take those hits off the QB." Like it seems like that switches every year depending what suits Nebraska with their quarterback situation at the time. And I am fully in the camp that it is very beneficial to have a QB who he doesn't have to be Michael Vick, but he gives you that element where the defense has to at least respect it, and it's on film, and they're very aware of it.
That was be still my heart to see quarterback running last night. BC, as always, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Thanks Brian.
That's the poll is up at 24-7. Thank you, number 15. Some recognition, some name recognition.
I got to find the have we looked at the ESPN one yet?
They are not in there. They are other considered.
They are.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Nebraska transfer is mentioned in that article. You want to guess which one was mentioned? Who left the team?
In the
article
of
the ESPN Top 25.
They play at Florida State?
No.
Chubba Purdy.
Ole Miss. Princewell Umanmielen mentioned it for Ole Miss.
That rolled right off your tongue.
Yeah, I've been training on that one. That was a really, because I had to like do pregame and stuff like that, and like that was always the one that I literally I would look in a mirror and be like, "Umami Ellen, Umami Ellen, Umami Ellen." Not a joke. That one haunted me.
Jones.
Not
quite the same.
What is old Lane in this
25?
Poll? Really?
Yeah, all the way down there. But he was mentioned. It was like they got, and then I think they connected him to his brother, Prince Lee, who is going to get drafted. He was a transfer from Florida, I believe Prince Lee was. And Nebraska was trying to get him. I don't know how close they were to doing that. I mean, they had his brother. Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time. But yeah.
They got Oklahoma rated 25th in this one. Who Jim Knowles is being connected to Oklahoma.
Man, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's dumb how stupid the AP preseason top 25 is, but it really is important when it comes to all this stuff.
Perception matters.
It's massive, which is why I asked Brian that question. Like, here's what we didn't talk about, right? So we talked about South Carolina. They had 3 losses. We talked about Alabama. They had 3 losses, right? We talked about these SEC teams who had 3 losses who maybe they could sneak into the college football playoff. One team that had 3 losses that we didn't talk about sneaking into the college football playoff, you know who that team is. You want to guess it for me?
Miami.
Illinois. Illinois was a 3-loss team who had competitive games against Penn State, who had beaten some good teams in the Big Ten. Now, look, when you look at their strength of schedule and their strength of record, yes, it was lower than the SEC, than those other teams. But we never had a peep about, hey, maybe Illinois could be in the running potentially, right? Now that you got 2 Big Ten teams who have won back-to-back national championships, there are going to be those teams who lose 3. Why is it all the SEC teams with 3 losses getting mentioned, not the Big Ten? That's a shift that could happen because it is important that your team, or a team in your conference, wins national championships, that your teams in your conference look good during bowl season, during the college football playoff, because it changes that perception. And being ranked 8th in the AP preseason top 25 and being ranked 22nd, there's a difference.
All right, we come back. This will bestill Jimmy's heart. Today is an anniversary of a pretty significant football game.
I like where you're going.
Andy Kennedy's still to come as well. 1620 The Zone. All right, so last night you had two major brands. Be curious on the ratings. Kansas City and Houston did pretty well on ESPN. Most watched NFL game. Why do people watch Kansas City? I thought it was rigged. Yeah,
it was the most watched game.
Yep,
even more than Bills Ravens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Taylor Swift greater than.
Well,
Haley
I don't know.
Steinfeld.
Those ratings haven't come out yet. They'll probably come out today.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it used to be the Taylor Swift thing, and don't get me wrong, there still definitely is pull in terms of more people watching Kansas City games because of her, but I mean,
it's like when Okoye was there. I used to watch because of him.
Patrick Mahomes, and I don't care how much flack I get for this. If he wins 3 Super Bowls in a row, I mean, we got to have. I don't care that it's not 7 Super Bowls. If he wins 3 Super Bowls in a row, it's legit conversation of whether or not he's already the greatest of all time.
Take
conversation.
That, LeBron.
It's a conversation. 3 Super Bowls in a row.
People hate the Chiefs. Why do they keep watching? I thought they had Chiefs fatigue. I thought they thought the thing was rigged. Why do people watch?
Let's take the show to the parade.
Why do people keep watching the Chiefs play? I don't know. I might be over caring what anybody thinks about my football team. We just go out and win.
We don't, but we, for the first time in my life, the Chicago Bears made the logical, reasonable financial decision, and I almost fell to the floor in my kitchen when I saw it. I almost dropped to my knees. It is the first time in my lifetime they made the easy, simple, best decision for the franchise and actually ponied up to do so. It's never happened before. Everything they've done since Lovey got fired has just been the wrong decision. Every decision.
We're happy for you.
Yeah.
Cannot believe that.
Now I hope it works out for you.
I know. That's the problem. Now he's got to win.
So the calendar, I mean, they got to do something with the college football calendar because there was not as much buzz as there should have been for last night's game.
No, not nearly.
But the NFL had 2 weekends of playoff football since the last college football game. That can't happen.
No.
And there's already talk of what do you do with the schedule? They have the semis January 1. Who knows? But this shows you how the seasons have gotten stretched further and further. On this date back in 1979.
I knew it. Jackie Smith. Got to be the sickest man in America.
Next to Mark Andrews. January 21st, 1979 was the Pittsburgh-Dallas Super Bowl at the Orange Bowl.
My great uncle put a hole through the wall when that happened.
I don't know if people realized, because then you had in the 80s, you had the Cowboys and the Niners. I don't know if people realized how monstrous that game was, that you had the 2 huge brands of Dallas and Pittsburgh playing in a Super Bowl on this date back in 1979.
Yep.
But think of it. The NFL was over on January 21st back in 1979.
Were Smith's pads, were they too big? I mean, it just felt like
he slipped.
No, but his hands were there, but his hands were out, but it was almost like his chest was on his thumbs. I watched that play and I'm like,
I was there.
I feel like his pads are a little bit too protruding. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if he had if he had the Vince Papale, quarterback pads, his thumbs would have been farther out. He could have made that catch.
Jackie made one against the Rams 2 weeks earlier. So
and why was he? I mean,
people forget though that Benny Barnes in that game had a crucial pass interference. Might have been a
BS call.
But
they got tangled up.
But it's Lynn Swann, and back then Bradshaw knew how to throw the floater, the underthrown DPI.
Yep.
Even that was a thing back in 1979.
But that's my thing. It's just
and then the ref blocking Charlie Waters, and Franco gets a free pass to the end zone.
I get that.
I'm gonna call Dad after this.
He slipped. I understand that he slipped. I get it. But wouldn't you argue that slipping actually put him in the right position to catch that ball?
We talking about Mark Andrews again?
No, we're talking about Jackie Smith.
I know.
It's did no one know how to body catch before Donald Driver?
Many did.
I don't know,
including Jackie.
I just feel like I've watched that play.
Hall
and I'm
of Famer
if
Jackie
anything,
Smith.
He should be. It just didn't make sense how the ball just hit his pad so quickly.
There were 17 future Hall of Famers that played in that game
crazy.
On this date back in 1979.
That is awesome.
And Thomas Henderson was high as a kite.
Can I complain about?
No, he was.
Let me complain about this. I love Jerome Bettis. Okay,
we all do.
As a Steeler, obviously,
he was there last night.
He was there,
honorary captain.
But I feel like he's always the Notre Dame guy. I'm sorry.
TC has my back.
Is Montana not available?
Montana was there last night.
But as the honorary captain.
I don't know. I mean, Montana might take him a bit to get out to midfield.
Yeah.
If he's not wearing his,
yesterday was the anniversary of Leonard Marshall.
Oh.
Yeah. Knocked him out for 2 years.
There's another part of that happened last night. Speaking of Jerome Bettis coming out as the honorary captain with Archie Griffin on the other side.
Yep.
Do we not know how to flip a coin in America anymore?
Thank God. Okay. I was debating whether or not to bring it up because it was going to be one of those stupid things that I was going to say, and maybe it would turn into OCD? Nothing. Do I?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Okay, so I think people that have OCD, this might factor in. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but you either flip it or you let it hit the ground and see where it lands, or you catch it in your palm and then you flip it to your other hand. Hasn't that been the standard for flipping a coin for like a billion years?
You go like this
ever since
and
Phil
you
Luckett.
Catch it in the left hand, and then you flip it back on. What are we doing like this? Why are we holding it like this?
Yeah.
Because at that point, if you place your hands in the wrong direction, it could influence which way the coin flips. So just here.
I mean, here. Just like when the Chiefs played, the NFL is rigged. You could have looked at the coin toss last night and go, something's up.
What was he doing?
They're both heads.
It was very awkward.
It was so awkward. Just let it hit the ground.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought we used to do.
We did.
Just let it hit the ground.
Mm-hmm. I'd never seen what the ref pulled last night in catching the coin flip.
Yeah. No, it's.
And what do you say if he drops it? We'll do it again. Why are you dropping it?
Yeah.
You catch it on your flat hand. You can even maybe cup it a bit, and then immediately.
Especially if you were paying juice on a coin toss.
So I've done that before.
I know that's kind of insane, but that's a Super Bowl prop that everybody jumps on.
I've done that prop before. I won last year.
Heads last night was -115.
It's the best bet in Vegas. Not actually, no joke. Like it is the best bet.
Speaking of Vegas, if you go to Vegas and you see Penn and Teller, you'll know the coin flip was rigged.
Okay.
They have
do
skit.
they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. I would love, man. I can't wait to go to Vegas, save a little money, go to the shows.
Hit up In and Out.
Go to the shows. I want to see Magic Mike or what?
No. I want to see
does
a magic
what with
show.
a kielbasa?
I want to see. Jeez. I want to see a magic show, and I want to see like a performance. That's what I want to see.
Exactly.
A musical performance.
So you want to go see like David Copperfield at MGM?
No, I don't want to go to Magic City and have the lemon pepper Lou wings. All right. I want to.
That sounds good though.
Watch like Adele or Bruno Mars or
Shout out Adele.
Okay,
Copperfield.
I'm just gonna give you like Copperfield is at MGM.
Wayne Newton.
But Adele and
Adele's done, yeah.
Yeah. So
and I think Bruno might have paid off his debt too. Did Bruno's debt come to an end?
I don't know. I was in Vegas on the last day of Adele's show, and so we wandered into Caesars. I was like, this might be fun. Yeah. Then I saw the ticket prices for her last show
for Adele.
Yeah, in her residency.
God. Oh my God!
Like just the get-in price was about $1,400.
No.
I love me some Adele, and I don't know Maverick Carter. But I ain't paying $1,400 to go see Adele.
No, it's not Maverick Carter. She's dating
Rich Paul.
Rich Paul. Yeah, the other LeBron friend.
Who's dating Maverick Carter?
I don't know who's
also
Maverick
Adele.
Carter.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, LeBron last night, good alcohol setup in his suite.
Great alcohol.
Wasn't that nice?
Oh, by the way, that hat, like that was cool with the stickers on the hat. Like that was a dope hat. So my best friend Mike Wood,
made up name.
Nope.
Shout out Mike Wood.
That's an alias.
My former, he
related to former Rocket David Wood.
He's my former roommate, brother of Christian Wood,
and
former Rocket, former Maverick, former LA Laker. Mike Wood and I, we're like those friends. We're best friends and we're in a friend group, but it's like our other friends annoy us from time to time, and we have no problem of just kind of ditching them and doing our own thing. And so we were planning spring break, and just the spring break plans were just getting ridiculous, and everyone didn't know what they wanted to do. And so Mike and I looked at each other and we go, screw it. You and me, we'll go to Vegas on our own. No one else. We don't need them, And we go, we'll go to Adele. And we go and we look at the Adele ticket prices, and we're all the way in last in October, and we're looking for March Adele ticket prices, and we're like, guess we're not going to Adele. Guess we're not doing that. That it was crazy.
Wait till we hire her here.
6 months in advance.
I would have loved to see her. If it was about half of that,
yeah,
I would have thought about it. And that's still crazy to spend $700 to see Adele.
So we saw like it was like 9:50.
I would expect my own personal song.
Mhm.
Have you seen though her performance of "Love Is a Game" at the very end of the show with like the flowers coming down and she disappears? You got to look it up.
I get her confused with Celine Dion, who does something like that at the end of hers,
or Michael Jackson at the Super Bowl, where he just kept disappearing.
No, you just have disgraced Adele.
Attaboy Jimbo.
You don't sound like that.
No, I won't. Out of respect for her, I have my
no peach emojis for you.
How about respect for yourself that you don't sing?
Let me show you right here. For those who question, I have an Adele soundtrack right here. It's just all my favorite Adele songs right here.
I think we all do. Yeah, I think we're all big fans of Adele.
All Celebrate my favorite Adele songs.
You see when she was on Jimmy Fallon? And they did...
no, I didn't.
When Jimmy Fallon and his band... They did a complete acoustic with her.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
I'll put that on the
I love
list
her
on
like
YouTube.
Very famous people in the garden performance with Oprah, where she's doing the interview with Oprah, but then also debuting her 30 album.
I thought he meant the garden.
I don't know. It's gonna be a while till we get another Adele. Unfortunately, it's gonna be at least another 4 years.
Gracie Abrams.
Is that? I like Megan Maroney right now.
Gracie Abrams. If you're on TikTok, Gracie Abrams is everywhere. She opened for Taylor Swift. She's got a hot new song out.
Is she pop?
She's pop.
She's pop.
She's gonna date one of the other chiefs.
She's pop, but she'll be country before long.
I'm in like a country woman phase right now. I like that. Like I've been listening to a lot of female country artists. No, that's not a joke.
Well, no, not that. What you said before.
Lainey Wilson,
Megan Maroney,
you know
Kelsey
what?
Ballerini.
So I'm sure
Carrie Underwood.
There's a lot of people that have benefited from Ozempic.
Oh,
with Lainey Wilson, we have not.
No.
Andy Kendi is coming up next on 1620 The Zone.
Such a good call. Nope, not going to do it.
Okay. This is a past faux pas.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know better.
All right.
I know better.
Our next guest knows this group very, very well. Andy Kennedy from KTV joins us. Good morning.
Fleetwood Mac? Are you talking about Fleetwood Mac?
Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yes.
Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, Christian McVie.
Yes.
It was a trap for me, Andy. It was a trap, and I wasn't falling for
not
it.
a thirst trap.
I was thrilled. I'd been to the Coliseum in LA before, but never for a game, a football game, and to hear the UFC band play Tusk was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Pretty awesome.
I love the video because the original video was shot at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah. You want to go through a time warp? Just look at that and look at just how whacked out those band members are, and Stevie Nicks taking the baton and leading the band on the field. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I think they couldn't get onto the Coliseum floor. That's why they had to the field. So that's why they had to do it at Dodger Stadium. But that was awesome. That's a great video. If anyone wants to go down YouTube, you can find it there.
USC plays Tusk. Last night I heard Ohio State playing Neck. Just a little different on where their programs are at. Hey, why no college football playoff being carried on ABC as well?
Great question.
Yeah.
I think ESPN, at some point ESPN wants you to pay for ESPN, right? So I'm guessing that has something to do with it. And, I don't know this for sure, but the movement the last couple of years for ABC kind of swiping some of the Monday Night Football, that has to be like some of the ESPN people have got to be, whoa, wait, hold on. We bid all this money for people to subscribe to ESPN, and now you're putting it over the free TV. So I think there's a lot of back and forth between that about what ABC can steal and air on their own on the mothership. But yeah, it was kind of because we had it for years, and then up until a couple of years ago, we did have it, and I don't know if that will change. I would assume it would, because you can talk about the decline of viewership ratings in terms of over the air and ratings and shares and all that for local television, but you're not going to get a bigger number than having it over free TV, whether it be ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox. I mean, that's just guaranteed a bigger number. And I know streaming is the future, but right now you're still getting bigger numbers when it's broadcast over the big boys.
So, Andy, at this point, Matt Rule was hired in 3 years now, or 2.5-ish years, in November of 2022. We're now in January of 2025. I want to ask you, in covering the Nebraska athletic program, not just football, just the athletic program, have you noticed a difference in just maybe anything in terms of attitude, how they do things, has there been any difference in covering that program that you've noticed since when Matt Rule was hired to now?
Well, the obvious answer is doesn't really have much to do with Matt Rule than as more of the bigger picture of college athletics is the NIL, the portal, paying players. That whole thing has evolved in the last 3 years. Talk about exploding. Matt Rule talked about being a developmental program. Well, you've got to have a sprinkled in NIL, free agency, however you want to call it. You have to have a plan in place in dealing with bringing in accomplished, ready, plug-and-play players and mixing them into developmental players. And then, oh, by the way, you got to get your 150 or 160-man roster down to 105 to meet regulations. All this stuff, I think, has evolved in the last 3 years, where news conference, if you go back and listen to it, I think, of course, some of the foundations and rings true to his basic, beliefs and how he wants to build a program. But I think he's also evolved in knowing you can't just, get a guy, have him develop for 2 or 3 years, and then hope to make an impact in his final 2 years. Those days are over.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this in the playoff. I mean, that's over. So now, is it good? You can argue until the cows come home, is it good or bad for college football? At some point, people are going to need to get a handle on the sport and college athletics as a whole. I mean, and when I say people, the powers that be, whether you develop a commissioner or a czar of college sports or whatever, because right now this is ridiculous, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to follow the portal over the holidays and full games and people opting out and not playing and leaving and then coming back and, oh, maybe this guy's going to give me
this school's going to give me more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's infuriating. And you go to, you spend enough time with family members over the holidays where they can really speak freely. People are ticked. I mean, this is dumb. This isn't the college sports that we grew up with. So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think it's great that the players are finally getting rewarded for their efforts, but in the bigger picture, we got to get a hold of this thing because this is just the wild, wild west right now.
There's a lot of talk about the calendar, and we just went through the slog of the first expanded college football playoff. Is the college football season too long?
Yes.
You didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
No, because I was talking to my brother last night, and he was like, "Can you believe it's January 20th, and they're having they're finally playing the championship game now? How do you rectify it? Do you start the season a week earlier? I mean, those two teams last night played 16 games. That's the old NFL schedule, right? I mean, these guys do go to class, or do they? I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's too long. I think the calendar has to be condensed. I think the pocket of time in that December area probably will be the area that they'll look at. The other thing, guys, which kind of struck me, and my wife brought up a good point. She was just like, how come a team like Indiana, they make it to the playoffs, or Tennessee, they make it to the playoffs. Hey, this is great. And on December, 21st, they lose and their season's over.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't there, I know that there would be opt-outs beyond belief, but then all of a sudden the real, the traditional bowl games come around and they're still being played. And I am a big fan of the bowl system. Nebraska is exhibit A of why the bowl system is still cool, because of what happened in New York. That was awesome. Why not have I don't know, plug them into another traditional bowl game so they get one last crack at their season on a high note? Now, on the flip side, you're going to have a team that loses 2 in a row at the end of the year that may put a shadow on their season. But still, it's just weird to see 4 really, really good teams and their season is over before Christmas Eve, and that's odd to me.
Are you in favor of removing conference championship games in order to shorten the season?
Well, I don't know. What did they do other than generate money?
Exactly.
All those teams lost. So I don't know. And maybe it's a small sample size and you can't go on 1 year, but something's got to be tweaked, because what does the conference championship game truly mean? And, a lot of times you're going to put rematches in those championship games. And yes, it's programming, but if you move up the calendar and you get rid of the championship games, maybe you do 16 teams and you just add a full nother round. So, I'd like the semifinals to be played on New Year's. I mean, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And then have the championship, a week and a half later. The Monday's fine. I don't mind the Monday, landing on a Monday, because that avoids the NFL. I think college football learned a little bit because they really tried to avoid the NFL placing those semifinal games Thursday on a Thursday and a Friday. There's a lot of people who were like, huh, that's tonight? It's not, you're not in that mode. So I think they really have to look at the calendar in terms of where you're placing these games to maximize eyeballs. And the ratings, the numbers were still good, but I think they could be better.
You are not only the sports director, but you're also a good travel director when teams are in championship mode and you have to go on the road and you have to figure out where Lauren is going or Matt is going or where you are going. 8 weeks from today, call your shot.
We talked about this yesterday.
Okay.
Wow. This yesterday.
All right.
Yeah.
8 weeks from today, will you how many sports personnel at KTV do you think will be traveling?
Ooh.
Well, we might be in a situation where we had last year, where we had 3 sports people and 4 teams to cover.
Yeah.
Shoot.
And then unfortunately, one team gets a little bit the short end of the straw, which is usually determined by logistics. Last year, it happened to be the Creighton women because they played so late out in Los Angeles. That's a great question. I think there's a real chance right now for 3 men's teams and 2 women's teams right now. And, Nebraska's got to straighten their ship. They have a real good opportunity this week with USC. I would say there's going to be 2 men's teams and 2 women's teams. Okay. And what we do with that just depends on matchups. But yeah, I would think the way Creighton's kind of figuring themselves out, they're trending upward. and I think they're going to take care of business as we move forward. It doesn't mean they're not going to stumble along the way, because we've heard this time and time again from Mac this year that winning Big East games is there's no gimmies in this league, and that includes tonight against DePaul. I watched DePaul take Marquette to the wire last week, so they can play some ball. But I think UNO really has a good opportunity with their men's team. They've got a real chance to win that Summit League tournament. They're in position. They got a real big one this week, as you guys know, St. Thomas on Thursday. It is Thursday, right?
Yep.
Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the women. I mean, my goodness, the Creighton women, and what Flan's done is just the tip of the cap to him to have that team in position every year. They have a huge one against UConn this Saturday, and that should be fun. And you know what, Amy Williams, we don't talk about this enough, but my goodness, to have all the attrition and the injuries and to keep that thing afloat and watching the evolution of Britt Prince at the college level, that's been fascinating to watch. And they're turning into a very tough out. And if they continue, they're going to get a 6 or a 7 because their schedule just gets tougher and tougher. And they have a big one Sunday against Ohio State. This is a great time of year.
Yeah, if you need a fill-in, camera, Andy, I come from the Kevin Suits School of television broadcasting.
I recall.
So I don't know if you need the reliever from the bullpen, if you need the Cuban coming out, I can help. I can help.
And don't you think that we haven't looked at the UNO men and thinking about our big Maverick insider with Gary Sharp?
Hey,
so
absolutely.
Let's make
that's not an option.
Let's make this happen. So if they win on Thursday night, they're 6-0. We go right away to Tulsa. So, next week we'll get together. I'll be the insider, and I'll be just like Robin and Bish.
That sounds like a great idea. Well, I'm telling you, Crutch has done a nice job. When that season started, I was like, this is going to be an interesting year. This team can play, and good on Crutch to get that team to play together. It's a hard deal, especially, we talk about NIL. Talk about the challenge that UNO has every year to assemble a roster that is not only can be cohesive and play together, but actually can play good basketball. Good on him to put him in position like this.
Yeah, no, my agent, Scott Boris, so you can reach out to him and we can put something together.
Well, watching what he's done with Bregman, I don't know about that. I think you want him.
So, real quick, just super quick answer. Do you think what Ohio State did with getting that talent, keeping that talent, spending that money, do you think that's replicable in Lincoln, Nebraska?
If you have enough money, it sure is.
Fair enough.
I don't know if they want to do it, but I think you could do it if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Just buy the biggest players. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a good question. I don't know.
Hey,
you got to have guys that want to play there too.
Right? That's the key. That is the key as well. All right, AK, thank you very much. Great stuff. We will see you out and about this week.
Thanks, fellas.
That's Andy Kendi. I'm glad he brought up. So Gino and Paige are in town on Saturday.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the pink out for the men who play Seton Hall on Saturday. That great event that is one of the best things that we do in this sports community. But the Creighton women are also playing at the Chai. The what?
At the Chai.
Thank you.
There you go.
At 4:30. Number 6 UConn and Paige Beckers. So in the big arena. Yeah, it is a baller after baller week.
It is,
because the Nebraska women, that is their the PBA game against number 12 Ohio State on Sunday.
I love basketball and I love sports and I love where we're at.
Well,
man.
and
working at the right place.
And Omaha Hockey, who's playing really well. They have St. Cloud State this weekend at home.
I love it. I know football's over, but man, college basketball, both men and women, the product has stepped up. There's competitive basketball not only being played all over the country, but in Nebraska as well. It's great, man. It's
Football's
great.
never over. It's Nebraska.
Yeah, well, we could have portal news today. We could have a special teams coach today. What are you talking about?
Ooh.
No, I don't think today.
I know. I'm kidding.
But the Nebraska didn't cancel school today, did they?
No, I thought Omaha or Lincoln. UNL?
UNL.
I don't know. I don't go there.
You don't still have your EDU email?
No, I think I'm done. I think actually
keep your school ID.
They deleted it, but at the same time I was able to use it to get really cheap Blackhawks tickets, so bang bang.
Well, keep it because you can get student discounts on certain streaming services, and I'm going to need to use it.
No, that's exactly what I did for Sunday Ticket, baby. Exactly what I did.
And I need to go to hockey
and my
this weekend.
sister, who's going to college for 4 years, I'm using her email. Nothing's going to stop me. Except
we're up against it. We'll see you tomorrow at 6. Jimmy Allen is in for Connor, who is doing the Creighton game tonight in Chicago.
Get excited.
I can't wait. Matt and Jimmy in the same room. This is going to be bad take after bad takeoff.
Double fisting cigarettes here.
Come up with your worst take.
I have it.
Awesome.
I have it.
Better not be about Little Caesars Pizza.
Shout out Mike Trout.
I have it. It's going to be bad.
For Jimmy, for Matt, I'm Gary. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6. Crossovers coming up next.